This episode, we got Roegge. And man, he is, in my opinion, one of the best eyes in motorsport cinematography. But that's mainly because I just watched her videos. He's part of, Keep Drifting Fun. He shot animal style stuff. He's done Gymkhana. He's done motion feature films. He's done just like, what hasn't he shot? Probably JFK, I guess. I don't think that he was alive for that. But you never know, dude. This world's weird. He drives a KA-T, so could have done it. I wasn't there to say otherwise. I have been to the grassy knoll though. Worst intro ever, but Will's a really insightful dude. I really enjoyed doing this. I actually got some life advice from him. I'm not gonna say what it was, but I picked up some stuff from this, and I hope you enjoy this as much as I did. So enjoy it, or else.
That's a nice setup you got. Is that at your place?
Yeah. I like yours too. I know you're in a cabin. There's no question.
No question.
You got your tape roll behind you. You're all business, man.
All the business back there. Look at this.
Yeah. So you moved to the mountains, huh?
Yeah. January, I bought a house up here in Big
Nice.
Bear. So yeah, I just came up here because Hurt was like, yeah, moving out, which was a super good move for him because it was crazy living with him and Raquel and a 6-month-old all in the same place. So it was it was about time for everybody to go off and start their own lives after that. So it was let me look for a spot.
You're like, after I live with Hurt, man, I just need to go to the mountains.
Yeah.
Get my head straight.
Yeah. For sure. But it's been good. I didn't know what was going to happen in the world. Nobody did. So it was it's kind of a much more chill spot to be than
dude
or something.
Yeah. Talk about luck on that one, man.
Yeah. You
made the right decision. Everybody's trying to get to nature. I barely did it. We moved, we're pretty much right across the street from Ocean Beach now, which is kind of sweet. So we're still in the city because my girlfriend won't leave the city, but I could walk outside and go sit on the beach, which I do almost every day. It's definitely a different lifestyle, but I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
It's a little bit cheaper too, because everybody's I need to get out of the city. So yeah. So your business is all, you're freelance. So it's when you have downtime, it's not you need to commute every day or whatever. You're just going wherever you're going anyway.
Right. And I think the surprising thing with this year was I usually have more work in California and Los Angeles. And this year it shifted to just being completely outside of California.
Yeah.
I think I've done 2 jobs here, in the past year now. And usually it's 30 or 40% are here. And then I was in all over the place. I mean, Kato and I got to a lot of good spots, this year for work. And it was kind of wild, the places that we ended up this year for sure.
Yeah. Not too much international stuff, or still international?
No, I went to, the last job I did internationally was just in Canada, and that was in February, beginning of February. And then pretty much kind of immediately after that, it was, kind of people weren't traveling as much. And it was let's drive to jobs if we have to instead of fly.
Yeah. I saw the Pikes Peak stuff that you guys are doing. That looks insane. And now that's not, Big Bear is what, not too far from there, actually?
Yeah, it's Big Bear basically buys you an hour and a half or 2 hours outside of Los Angeles. So it puts you further east and north. So it's to get to Vegas or to it's actually, I'm probably 50 minutes from Grange right now, which is kind of sick, but I haven't even been yet. So it's yeah.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Close to Grange is good.
Yeah. Basically the mountains you can see way off in the distance from Grange. That's the backside of Big Bear and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like a lot of people are moving. I have like a bunch of friends that are moving to Vegas, and it just seems kind of like this like California exit.
Yeah. Well, it's like there's just a lot of, people that don't agree with how things are going here. And like, I'm sure you see it in San Francisco too. Like, even like when I go back into Los Angeles now, I'm like, the homeless situation is terrible.
Yeah,
And like, it has definitely not gotten any better, obviously, because of the pandemic.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, people aren't working. I'm sure there's like more and more people ending up without somewhere to live, and
Yeah.
it's kind of gnarly. And yeah, not what can you do? I don't know. It's pretty gnarly. We
Yeah.
have
I'm not leaving California anytime soon though, man. It's like I was
yeah.
having like grown up in Ohio. I'm like, hey, you dorks can all move to Texas and Arizona, man. Like, go for it.
Yeah.
Less people here.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt a little bit. I'm like, all right, it feels like the city can breathe almost a little bit, because like for the last 5 years, it was like you couldn't move, like you couldn't move around here. Now it's kind of like, oh, I can drive to the other side of the city in like
Yeah.
20 minutes, 15 minutes or whatever. It's
It
like,
made it way more livable
okay,
for sure. Yeah.
yeah. I was like, all right, I can get used to this.
Yeah.
Like rent's coming down, okay.
Okay.
Like might not have a job.
Uh,
We'll make do.
yeah.
Yeah, it's made drifting more accessible too. It seems like a lot of people are driving a lot just because, that's social events and stuff kind of really happening, and that's really it. People are like, all right, well, I guess I'll put time in on the car, and when the events pop up, people are like, I'm going.
Yeah.
So that's been cool. I've been
Yeah.
taking advantage of that too.
Yeah. How's things been going with you? You said you were about to do a diff.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch from a 315 final drive to a 391.
Okay.
So I'm pretty much losing a gear.
Yeah. But for the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that because Julian's going K series,
Yep.
and he's putting a BMW trans behind it, the same one
Yeah.
that I have. So my goal is to get the gear ratios close.
Yeah.
Because there's no way they're gonna run a 3.5 or a 3.7 or
No.
anything even close. Like they're gonna run a 408.
Right. And he's staying like R200, like Nissan diff then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the K swap stuff, man. Like I think that's the coolest stuff going right now, because like it sucks that, I mean, it's just the natural evolution of things, right? Like you're dealing with like scarcity of motors, and like all the motors that we all loved, a decade ago just aren't available in the same way. So,
I mean, just because of COVID, Jay-Z's doubled in price in the last 6 months. Like a one Jay-Z VVTi was like 1,800, 1,700. Now they're like 27 or something. And like a 2J VVTi is like $5,000 now.
Yeah,
man, like we gotta burn through some stuff that's actually sold here.
Right. And burn through some stuff that was in a ton of Hondas and in the transmissions that were in a ton of BMWs, like it's cool that, and I'm not sure who kind of like was the initial person, like if that was Toge Factory, who was like really spearheading that whole movement, but like props to them, because those motors are stout and people are definitely proving what you can do with them.
They're definitely thinking ahead. I was talking to them about some other stuff that they're working on that I was looking into also that I don't think I'm not supposed to talk about, but they're definitely looking to the future of what the used like engine and transmission market is going to look like, 5-10 years from now. Because SR gearbox used to be $150, man. Like now there's what, $700-800, and it's like it's pretty much like a KA trans,
Right. And I remember like there was like a Moto IQ article that I had read like years ago where they were just like, those guys coming from more of like a road racing grip background and really being like a top tier drifting, like like Mike Kojima and those kind of guys, like they never liked the SR because they were always like, it doesn't like flow well, the rocker arm's always an issue, and like you guys are just putting it way too up on a pedestal, and there's all this other stuff that like makes way more power. And it like I was kind of like, it's like you just don't get it, like it was so cringy. But now like looking at it and being like, I don't know, is it worth putting a $2,800 red top into your car.
Yeah, I
It's
think
also older at this point, right? Like you're
man,
dealing with older motors that you don't know what the life of them's been. And
I would say if you're a purist and you're gonna spend the money and you're gonna go all out and you're gonna like build the head and you know you're gonna do solid lifters and all that and really like do a nice build on the motor and it's gonna last, go for it. But if you're just
yeah,
the type that's like, oh, we can crank the boost, see what happens, I guess.
yeah,
Like it's just not. They're not. It's not. You know, it's not that kind of motor anymore.
no,
Because I mean, I did that. I blew my SR up because I was messing with it like in a bad
yeah.
way and I mean, I'm sure that would have happened with any motor.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I love is I forget who is doing it, but like the NA swap to me is something that's super interesting because it
Yeah.
seems like
Yeah,
on a
like
on a tune, yeah, you could make
300 all motor.
yeah, yeah,
What?
yeah,
Like think about an ITB like NAK series all motor, just like that'd be insane.
that'd be so much fun. And I feel like to me that's like it like is a fitting motor to put into a lot of cars, you know, that's
Right.
like would be so great for guys that you know don't want to drive a Z, I guess, you know, like let's say like you like in all seriousness,
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
want to
yeah.
get into drifting and you're like, oh, I can get like a really nice, you know, chassis from a friend or something, but it doesn't have a motor. So then
Right.
cool, like do like a NAK swap and just go drive the crap out of it and get as much seat time as you can possibly get, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's a 1J is a 2.5 liter, a K series K24 is a 2.4 liter. It's like
Right.
the displacement's there. It's pretty much like a KA people are gonna hate me for this one. It's like a newer KA,
No, and I think that's
but
why
it
I like
revs
it so
high.
much is like
Yeah.
being a dude that's put in a lot of time and money and frustration into K turbo setups. Like I just see the Honda K swap as just being like this much less frustration, you know, setup that if like, oh, well, if the motor blows up, like, what are you out $800 or something? Like,
Yeah. I think that the K and the Ks are getting expensive too now.
right.
You can't get a K for like under $1,000.
Right.
It's
And then
insane.
also the things that you're gonna I've like I never found a tune that I loved on it, and you just are running into
Yeah.
issues. Like I think if I had to do everything over again with like what I've put into cars, I probably would have done just an SR straight up and like not messed with the boost and just driven the crap out of it and worked on like
Yeah.
cooling and other stuff that would let you just drive longer, you know, as opposed to chasing
My
power.
my shopmate Nacho has like I think it's 500 wheel now. KA,
Okay.
and he's done everything. He has like really nice standalone. It's on E85. Like he
Yeah.
built it himself. Like the
Yep.
engine bay is gorgeous. Like it looks beautiful, right? Like he's gone all out, but like that's the motor that he drifted with forever.
Yeah.
He just knows him super well. But like you're not always gonna get that. Like
No.
for us jabronis that need to just like
Yeah.
oh, the motor, okay.
Yeah.
You got one? All right, cool.
Yeah.
Let's long block swap this piece. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
we gotta have options for that.
Did he stay on a distributor or did he go to like a like SR coil packs and like
He has LS
Oh,
coil
okay.
packs and yeah,
Yeah.
it's nicely done.
Yeah. That's a way to be. I mean, and then the issue is it's like I remember like way back and I just saw Matt Powers had posted this photo of him and Sam Hebenette from Long Beach in like 2010, and I just remember all of his issues was just blowing up head gaskets like every round, you know, and like it was like once you're at that threshold of like 450 and you're on E85 and then, you know, it's like, well, what's going to fail, you know?
Yeah. Nacho's doing a head gasket right now.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I don't know. Teach their own, you know. Some people
For
like
sure.
what they like.
And I think like that's a big
Those
part of it
hardcore
too.
Nissan guys are like, no, no. Like Nissan engines,
Yeah.
Nissan cars.
And I respect that from the purist thing. Like
I do too.
I'm like, that's cool. If that's your thing, you know, stay with it and don't swap it out. But also like a 1J and a 14 is also, or a 13 is also pretty sick, or in a BMW or in anything, you know, like it's hard to deny the sound of a inline 6 versus a 4, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I want to hear one of those like K series, like ripping, like in drift.
Yeah.
I've heard one and it sounds pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Like I want to see more. There's a dude who put one in a clown shoe, I think. You know, like he had a Jay-Z in it and then he swapped it. I just saw it on Instagram and was like scrolling through and I was like, whoa,
Whoa.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. It's
Right.
like, hey, brother, we making those purists angry together.
Yeah. And that's what I dig too, is it's like when you see it in, I'm sure it's the same way in a BMW, is it's like when you see those engines in the car, they sit so far back, they're so small. These are designed for front wheel drive cars. And it's like the packaging on them is tiny, so it's like you could get the weight distribution, like behind the front axle essentially, which is like,
that's like my only issue right now is cooling, and I can't do anything about it unless I go like rear mount, and I'm kind of not really like, once you're there, like what are you doing? Like,
right.
But at the same time, it could be
cool. Could be cool.
Yeah, my car drives so good that I like don't want to change anything. Like it drives good.
Yeah. What is the status of everybody in Animal Style right now? Like in terms of like, I see like Luke is getting close to doing some stuff, right? Like all of his stuff looks beautiful.
His car is on the dyno as we speak.
Whoa.
Literally right now it's on the dyno. He's getting tuned. I think he said they got it up to like just under 4 or something. And that's he did literally Jason's built. So
okay.
Every part that Jason got for his motor and the same machine shop did the whole thing. He's got like a smaller bottom mount turbo and stuff because he just, we run out of money. We don't get to do all the craziness we want to do. But he's running like a Jazz manifold and like a bottom mount turbo. I don't know what it is, but yeah, his engine pay is beautiful. I was helping him and Magic Ollie with the wiring a bit.
Yeah.
So he's gonna be back up and running. He's probably gonna have the nicest looking car on the team.
Dude, like his fender work and all the metal work that he's done up front there is ridiculous. Like that's the Instagram one that I'll be like going through the feed and just pause and just be like I saw the photo today or yesterday.
Yeah, he's making us look bad.
And I was like, oh,
he's making us look bad for sure. Like when we were there working on it, doing the wiring and stuff, you'd like run around with like towels and like put them down and stuff.
Yeah.
Like before you put tools down on the paint, I was like, all right, okay.
All right.
All right. Respect.
Yeah.
And then Jason's literally like this weekend was putting it's like a Frankenstein SR from a bunch of different SRs that didn't make it.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like taking this from now on and this from now on and kind of like seeing what'll happen.
Yeah.
And then they're going to turn the boost down on that a bit and just hope it's good and run that for the end of the year for New Year's. We're doing an event at Thunder Hill on New Year's Eve. You're welcome to come if you want.
I feel like I've heard about it for like the past couple of years, and I'm always like, what am I doing at New Year's? And like, or just don't have a car that's functioning. But that would be a good one to even come up and just hang out with everybody because I haven't seen everybody in so long. So
yeah, it'd be a sweet one. There's I think some pretty cool people coming from a ways.
Is that a skid pad or a road course event?
It's going to be road course one day. It's going to be road course skid pad and both skid pads day one. And then day two is just the 2 skid pads. So it'll be like fast, crazy drifting. And then it'll be like big party sesh on the skid pad the next day.
That's cool.
Yeah. Should be fun.
Yeah.
My car is a pile at this point because I've just been driving all year. And that's like, I got a budget. I'm like, do I want to make it? Do I want to fix it? Do I want to drive the next event? And I've just been like, every time I just decide to drive.
Yeah.
Because I just made a decision like this is going to be the year that I like get better at chase driving because I've like plateaued for 8 years or something, like never really gotten better. So been like pushing at that. And then Jason's car, he's going with like a newer standalone and kind of like doing that. He just switched to E85. So now his car will be even faster.
Great. That was necessary.
Yeah. Because we didn't have any trouble keeping up with him.
Yeah.
Al, I don't know. His car looks pretty and sits at the house.
Yeah.
He's been enjoying some other things in life. And then like Brandon up in Canada, he's like stuck up there, but he's ready to go always. And then Aaron, like the newest team member in Washington, he candy painted his car and has been driving it a bunch. That's the one that you see that's like candy faded from like the roof to the.
Ooh.
It's like,
yeah,
it's pretty wild.
Yeah. So what are the biggest things you feel like you've picked up? Because that would be a good thing for me too. Because like my tandem driving is awful. So it's like, what are the biggest things you felt like were the takeaways from driving so much this year then?
Man, I'm getting interviewed. This is rough. So
because I saw one of your posts and I thought it was super good, and I've heard other people say it about the looking at the other wheel as opposed to like the body of the car or something. Like
so Kato, big Kato, Ryan Kato would always tell me that, and I had a lot of trouble with it, and I don't know why. I think it's because I was looking down. And then Keisuke of New Zealand, and he drives in Japan a bunch too. He said that Naoki said to look at the fender, so the front fender, so that you can like, and for whatever reason, I don't know. Ryan said look at the wheel because then you can see what the car is going to do. Yeah, and you're looking at the right place. So I think that probably has its benefits. But for whatever reason, the thing not moving around is easier for me to track. I started looking at the fender, and that actually helped because I can look past it and still look at it instead of just fixating on the wheel. Yeah. And so I think that was kind of big. Yes. People say different things, but I think the biggest one is like finding the confidence to start close to someone. And like, I didn't know how far away I was behind people. Like you really have to be like bumper to bumper if you want to initiate and stay next to them. You can dive in, but then you're always playing catch up. And if they like slow down at all and you slow down, they take off. And it's the mistakes that I was always making were I'd start late, or I thought I'd be starting close and I wasn't. And then they take off and you're diving in. And then by the time you dive in, they're taking off again and you're slowing up and you're trying to play this like catch up game. And that's actually way more dangerous because, and Julian has always said this to me. And I was like, I don't know what he's talking. He doesn't know. I don't know. What does that even mean? Like it's safer to start close. Yeah. Because if they mess up, then you just slide together versus you trying to catch up and then them spin and you hit them.
It makes sense, right? Because it's like you're just talking about like the energy ends up in them as opposed to like if you're at the same speed, same momentum and stuff, then when you hit, it's like real minor and it's like fender to fender as opposed to like you coming in trying to play catch up and smacking them.
Exactly. It's all about just building up the confidence to be that close. And it's weird. It's like this weird mental block. And honestly, like the biggest change this year was, you'd always, I don't know if this happens to you, but I'm sure it happens to a lot of people. You like in your head, you're like, man, I was like on their door. That was so close. And then you see the picture and you're like 4 car lengths away and you're like, what the fuck, man? Like I was right there. Yeah. And I've ridden in cars where we're like door to door a bunch of times. Like I've ridden in Julian's car, Jason's car, Ryan's car, everybody. Right. So I know what it feels like, but for whatever reason, you have to be in the passenger seat or the driver's seat. Like you can't be in the passenger seat and feel that. You have to be in the driver's seat and feel how close that is. Because for whatever reason, it's just different. Like your perception is just different when it's you versus like, even though it's two vehicles in the same space on the same plane, like
for sure. No, and like I think that's the same thing. Like the closest tandem I've ever had is like that 4 car length kind of ones where I was like, and then like you get out and you're like looking at the GoPro footage and it looks like they're not even driving on the same corner as you. And it's like, oh man.
The GoPros definitely make it rough. Like the GoPros, like definitely you're like watching the GoPro footage, you're like you have to be touching for the GoPro
for sure.
To make it look cool.
For sure.
Yeah. And then the biggest one was like Julian just said, just hit me on this one. Just hit my car. Yeah. And then Jason started saying that like, you got to just start hitting my car. Yeah. And I think I've always been too nice and I didn't want to like hurt somebody else's car pretty much. Yeah. But then what went through my head is like all the 600 times like the back of my car has been smashed and like, wheels have been marked up, and all the
Yeah.
touching on the back of my car when I'm leaning, and I'm like, you know what? Like today is my I'm gonna
do it.
I'm going, dude. And I literally just floored it into Phoebe's S14.
Yeah.
Like all I heard was rev limiter and boom, it was not a gentle touch.
Yeah.
But after that, I figured it out. I was like, oh, I can be way closer because, it was 2 seconds of me flooring it to catch up into their door.
Yeah. And I think the thing for me too is it's
Luke's calling me from the dyno right now.
Oh yeah, dude. Answer that. See what's up. Yeah.
Should I answer it? Let's answer it.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, what's up? You're on the Goodest cast. How's your dyno time going?
Am I really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's sick. It went great.
Yeah?
It went great. Yeah, we're all done now.
Okay, I thought you were calling me with problems. I was like, oh no.
No, I was calling you because we had a question. Are you running Link screen in your car?
No, I have AEM.
Oh, okay. Well, there it is.
Are you having troubles with stuff showing up?
We were just trying to do a conversion from Celsius to Fahrenheit. But anyways, he was just wondering if you knew how to do it real quick. But never mind, I guess.
I can help you later.
Yeah, it's no worries.
Okay.
But hey, I'll let you get back to your podcast.
Yeah, dude. How much did it make?
I got about 300.
300? Okay.
Yeah, we if we tuned it with 19 pounds of boost, so I was making 350 though.
Nice.
We turned it down a little bit, so I'm about at 300. We couldn't really. We're having some problems with the boost controller, I guess. So it was kind of 350 or 300. There was no in between, so I went with 300 on the safe side.
Yeah, just break it in and crank it up later.
Eventually I'll go with a little better, bigger turbo, different manifold setup, and we'll go from there. Go with some more power later on.
Sick.
So
congrats, dude. Long time coming.
Hey, thanks. Oh gosh, you have no idea. Well, you do, but it's finally paying off,
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Who you on this cast with?
Well, Roegge.
Oh, okay. Tell him what's up.
That's all I say. Hey. Yeah.
He says hey.
Anyways, I'll let you get back to it.
All right, man.
All right. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
I've never answered a call on here before, but I figured that'd be entertaining.
Cool. That was good, man. I wanted to know.
Yeah.
We got power levels.
Yeah. 19 pounds, 350. That's pretty good. It's not bad for SR.
No, not at all.
Boost controllers, man. What is it with boost controllers? I have another friend of mine. I grew up with this dude. And then, we were always both into cars, and we would kind of mess around when we were in high school and do donuts and stuff. And then we kind of lost. We didn't we've still been friends, but we haven't hung out in a long time. And then I see he gets into drifting, and he drifts the E36 because he's actually kind of the reason I got the E36 is because he bought an E36 M3 when we were younger, and I drove it, and I was like, this car is sweet. And so it's funny because now he has a E36 drift car, and so do I. And so now he's been like, oh man, I'm at the dyno. I'm doing all this crazy, my wastegate making too much, it's all this boost stuff, man. Anyway,
I feel like if you have a dyno session that doesn't have at least one thing go kind of majorly wrong, you probably live in some alternate reality that I've never been in.
I wired my cam angle sensor backwards, and it cost him an entire day. That was cool.
It's just overheating, something getting melted. You could make dyno session bingo, right? Where you're you have just certain things that are wrong that could happen every time.
Yeah. Run out of fuel.
Run out of fuel is a classic one.
Yeah. Tire slip.
Oh yeah.
If you're really going for it.
Yeah. The boost controller is a super classic one though, because it's always some smaller system like that will have some kind of issue. It's oh, do you have a vacuum leak then that's actually causing everything to not read true, or is the cam angle sensor wrong, or is you just start detonating way too early or something. You're oh, but you should do E85. That was always a thing with the KA builds that I would have, is the dudes who were tuning it would just be yeah, you need, if you want to make more power, then do E85. And I'm I can't even drive this car well with the 340 horsepower you're already made with it, it's like
You're like, I don't need
too
that.
much. I definitely don't need that.
Yeah, I think my car is like mid threes, and it's wild. Like,
Yeah.
but I've never had like a high horsepower car, so like I don't even know what to do with it. Like, it's great. I can't when I go bigger turbo and do like a top mountain stuff, like I don't even know. I don't even know what I'm gonna do with that. Like,
yeah, spin tires more, dude. Going straight. That's all.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I've been stoked when I went back to like a smaller setup and like just ROM tune with like a GT28. Like that was like the happy spot for me, because like the car that was making like mid threes just had issues all the time.
Yeah.
And then the car that was simpler, that had less power and an easier tune and stuff, that probably only makes like mid twos, is like way more enjoyable and starts every time. So yeah.
Why is that?
Just less taxing, I guess, and less things to go wrong. But yeah, it's still just as enjoyable to drive in, like for tracks, like Grange or like, Riverside.
Yeah, that's plenty.
Stuff. It's like, what do you need,
I think anything above like 400 at Grange is unnecessary.
Oh, for sure.
But I would say that like getting up, I mean, it depends on who you're driving with. Like all the Corolla, like if it's just a gang of Corollas, like you're gonna have a blast with even just like a 16 valve, But then if I'm trying, if you're trying to keep up with my friends, I'm like back there like, hey, what up?
Yeah.
You gotta have some grip, because they'll just ditch you on the straight.
Well, dude, like Thunder Hill's a great example of that. Like Thunder Hill West and like places like that, where it's like you can really be in, and especially with like the final drives that you guys are running and stuff too, or those guys are running, like, yeah, it's like you could be way up gears, like in fourth doing things, and you're like, it's a whole new world for me, man. I just reached the summit of third gear going in Grange,
When Julian blew his motor, he was in fifth gear. Like in turn one on Thunder Hill. Like it's I actually just got it's like there's a guy in Australia making these like data logger things where like you put two GPS antennas on the front and the back of the car, and it measures like mile per hour or kilometer per hour and angle.
Okay.
So I'm bringing that, and I got one, and I'm bringing that to New Year's Eve, and I'm gonna put it on all the people's cars, and I'm gonna see like who's really throwing down on the entry and stuff. Like it'll be cool, man. Like
that is cool
to see those numbers.
Yeah, there was the first person that I had heard about that was like doing something like that, like from a pro drifting perspective, at least was like open about it, was like one of the Sorensens, like they're like the two kids, they're not kids, but like younger adults from Vegas. They might be kids, I don't actually know, but like years ago, like at Irwindale, and like their dad came over and was like chatting me up about stuff, and he was like, oh yeah, we run GPS and like all this stuff on the car and like compare line, and I'm just like, this is everything I hate about motorsport. But like
I just think it's cool the way that the guy set it up. It's an app, and it's kind of like Strava for drifting. Like you can like, it like shows speed and angle on certain tracks and line, and like gives you like points, and like you can get like first, second, or
That's cool. I
mean,
it's like
a social media platform where you share other people will be like, all right,
okay, that's cool.
Like I'm not a pro, but like,
right,
what's up, dude, I'm gonna give it a go,
right. But it's not like you're like, oh, let me study the GPS like readout on this maps image so I can like change my line or like up my angle or wheel speed for like Pro 2 stuff,
Yeah, we need to drop our tire pressure to PSI.
Yeah, dude.
To get more. And unfortunately, like that's where it's going. Like I think some of the teams are running literally like tire heat sensors, and they'll do a longer or shorter burnout to determine like to get their tires to the right temperature for optimal grip and stuff. Like that's
and I don't want to bag on like pro drifting at all too much, but I think it's like just something that I think like I forget who'd always said it that way, is like there just needs to be a lot of different representations of drifting in the world, right? And like you don't have to agree with pro drifting, but it can still exist and be its own thing, and like go further and bigger and whatever.
It's like Thrasher versus the X Games,
Right.
Like who would you rather hang out with? Who would you rather go drive with?
For sure.
I I mean, I'm sure Tony Hawk's cool, but you know, actually, I don't know if I'd really want to hang out with Andy Roy. Maybe I would.
Yeah.
I feel like that'd be anyway. Whatever, bad example, but someone was telling me recently, my friend Alex was like, he's like, how did he say it? He's like, I don't think that he's like, I think Formula D lost something when Will stopped doing like event videos. Cause like he's saying that like your videos got him more hyped on Formula D than like anything around. And
that's cool to hear, but I think there was like an entire group of people that left, right? Like that was
yeah,
the thing. Is just like it wasn't just me, it was like, you know, even like Yair and Lauren and HD like really doesn't seem to be putting out as much stuff. And then obviously Josh Heron and then Shreve and all the Tandem of Die stuff. And then even
when's
Brandon
that DVD
Cotto,
coming
like,
out?
Dude, I'm still waiting for it.
Sam,
best trailer ever for sure. Yeah. Justin, if you need any help, dude, editing that, let us know. We'll help you.
Yeah,
we just want to see the footage.
You got to put out a DVD, even if no one has DVD players anymore.
Yeah, for sure. VHS too.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, I think that's like the FD thing. Like, I mean, I can't tell you when I watched a video from Formula Drift. Like, I think it became really sponsor focused, you know, like in terms of like just serving the needs of like a recap to a sponsor, or, you know, and I don't really know what the appeal, you know, how broad that is, you know, because like I think people, you know, like ourselves, or like your friend that you mentioned, like I think people want to see everybody and see highlights of things and like different perspectives, and like maybe that like need for like people, you know, consuming FD content is met now with the live stream, like that people just don't like, they're not seeking out like, what was this like, because that just didn't exist, you know, in 2010.
Yeah, the live stream was pretty rough back then anyway.
Yeah.
Like, even if you did try and I remember working at Best Buy in the car audio install bay, and we like put it on, it would just like chug.
Yeah.
And like have like all kinds of problems and stuff. And then like, you know, anyway, whatever. So I think this year because I actually watched a couple rounds because, you know, we're all stuck kind of not doing stuff.
I still watch a ton too. So it's like, for sure. I try to keep up with it.
Yeah. And like it seems like they did a decent job, and they did like, the live stream's getting better. I think it's because that's their only means of anyone seeing it at this point. So, I mean, like at least there's that. And I think they're trying, but yeah, there's definitely some stuff that we all feel as people who've like, you know, a particular type of drifting, and it's okay to have those varieties, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I think like, you know, it's I think just like kind of any sport, like you were saying, like there's a certain number of people that will want to hit a mega ramp or some like huge big air thing, but like the majority of people, I think, you know, who are, I guess, core enthusiasts might want to watch a street part, or like, you know, something more creative than something that's just, you know, the nth degree, or taking something to just the extreme level of what it is, you know, that kind of abandons everything else just for a sole purpose, you know, which is performance.
Yeah. Watching people do the loop versus like,
right.
Like a crazy 16 stair, like a kink rail or something. You're like, I think it takes people who know the nuance to appreciate the nuance.
Yeah. And it's like I think that, you know, it's, I don't know, like, this is a good question for you, is like, I don't know if more tire smoke necessarily makes drifting better. And like, I think there's actually seems like the speed is so high now, and there's just an outrageous amount of tire smoke. Like, I think if I was shooting at those events now, I would be like, what am I looking through? You know, it's so fast.
It's going to get to a point where like the tire smoke is bad. Like, like you see how thick the smoke is in the air. Like, it's not good for people, you know, like,
no,
the media, like pretty much even at like Sonoma Drift, like, cause it's in like a kind of a bowl, like the smoke kind of just grows, you know, and sits there. Like at Thunderhill, it kind of like washes away because it's a big flat plane and there's like a big kind of opening or whatever. But you watch the stuff in Japan and they don't really make smoke like they do here. And I think it's because there was so much, like, I think wasn't smoke like a judging point at one point, like how much smoke you're making? I feel like it was.
I'm just gonna go with that because I feel like it's a good one to say yes to. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. That's like a crowd thing. Like, oh, look at that one's like I feel like it's the thing where you don't recognize like the nuance of like a fast flick or like,
Right.
diving in on somebody as much as you would see like a car just like smoking out the whole,
Yeah.
hill or whatever.
Yeah, there was I don't know if you watched the round at St. Louis at all this year.
No, I didn't
The
miss that one.
if you pull it up, like the track layout's kind of funky, and I think it was their second year running it, but it kind of goes back to what you were saying about the tandem thing, is that people need to be initiating like on each other's doors, because like I think in just a general racing thing, and you could apply this to like so much, right? Like is you could say if you're off from turn one, then you need to be playing catch up, and that's going to be changing your line through everything. So like if you're not on it from initiation, then like the run is like, never going to be as good as you want, which is like the same way as if you're doing a line on a snowboard or anything else. Like your first action sets you up for your second, sets you up for your third. So if you mess up the first one, like it's a domino effect of like, it's never going to be as good if you slip up in one thing, because it's a chain reaction of things. So it's like, I think the tandem was really weak because of that, because like there's just a couple like longer straights that are like faster transitions, but like the difference in speed meant that someone was always coming in super hot and then scrubbing a ton of speed and then trying to like shallow up and dive in just to like maintain proximity through it. And it's like, do I want to watch somebody do this repeatedly and never see good tandem? Because they're just, and for real, like it's like there's the layout kind of forces you to like, to this real herky jerky kind of motion of like a dive in, let up, like exactly what you described. And like, how to solve that, like, and they're all pro drivers. They know what's going to make for good tandem and not just all out speed,
Yeah. I wonder how much of it is in the driver's hands.
Oh, for sure. Like, yeah. I was shooting at St. Louis for like some other project, and they were explaining that track layout. Like we were there doing like a Hoonigan video where a couple of the dudes from Hoonigan were going to drive one of the rallycross cars like prior to a GRC round, or like I'm trying to think and it was pretty sick because it was like Ron and Vinny from Hoonigan were like, okay, cool, jump in Steve Arpin's rallycross car and go drive it on like a mixed surface, like dirt and tarmac track.
Yes.
And yeah, it would have been like
you guys get
come true.
Yeah, you guys get to see and like experience and do some cool stuff with all that. I always like see you guys on Instagram. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool.
For sure.
Maybe I should have got better at editing or something.
Dude, the podcast, just let it keep going, man. That's
true.
You're putting out things right now. I'm not. So it's like, yeah, like, but there was the guys from the track were like, we're changed the FD layout, and they were kind of like explaining it to us. And they're like, we're gonna have an end and come up onto the bank here. And it was like, it felt kind of forced and like not as flowing as like it could have been. And yeah, it just like, what corners, like bigger sweeping kind of corners are going to lead to better tandem moments, not like straight line tight hairpin type corners where it's going to, fall back, catch up and not have a moment to even really get into the pocket and catch up.
Yeah. The pocket.
Yeah.
You were the one that explained it to me, and I was like, I posted, I was like, can someone please tell me what the pocket means?
Yeah.
I have no idea, because it's like every time he says it, I have no, like, it's like there isn't like enough reference to what in the pocket is. Like, is it like a part of the track? Is it like outer zone? Is it
right,
a tandem thing? And I'm just like, I don't like, I have no idea. And then you're like, I think it's like it comes from surfing, but it has to do with the wave. And then so I was like, okay, well then like, wouldn't that have to do with the corner?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to do with like following the other car, I guess. So it's like being like in like the good chase spot, I guess.
Right.
Because I was gonna do my friend Lucky had me like MC Twin Drift, and so I watched Formula D the day before, because I was like, all right, let's see like how do I commentate a drift event? And I was
it's hard.
Yeah, honestly, this might be, depending on who listens to this, it might be controversial.
Yeah.
But I was like definitely shit talking a bunch about how, I mean, okay, I'm just gonna say it. I think Ryan Sage isn't like maybe after some time I don't know. Like I don't know if he has like enough drifting knowledge to like really be entertaining as far as like hit some of the stuff he says really confusing.
Yeah.
But like Jared, I always thought was kind of annoying.
Yeah.
And his like punniness, but like, dude, you have to just keep coming up with shit.
Yeah.
And so like I'll give him some props. Like, cause I said
Yeah.
some goofy stuff on there. Like I was like, I listened back to like part of it. I was like, I can't listen to this. Like some of it was funny, but some of it was like absolutely terrible.
I think 2 years ago or a year ago at like a Grid Life event, like I think it was like Kato, Shreve, myself, and then Hobo, like we were all doing the live stream camera operation for Grid Life events for like the past 2 years with one of our friends, Matt, who like was doing all their live stream stuff. And they were like, hey, so all of the like Sam and the Drift Idiot dude and like I'm trying to think who else was doing commentary for drifting. They're like, they're out. So like we don't have anyone commentating for this drift session. So like it was down to Road Atlanta where it's only, you know, to cover that course is only 2 cameras. And like we were covering time attack and everything else. So like I think Josh and I were on different areas of the track. So we're like, yeah, we'll go do commentary. And it was so hard. It was so hard to do just because like we didn't know any of the drivers. Like we knew 3 people out of like 25 cars. So we're like, I think this is this guy.
Yeah.
With this motor. Yeah, maybe. Oh, it looks like a train. Okay, it's a train.
I mixed up people's names. I mixed up team names. I mixed up like cars.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like, but to be fair, if it's FD and you run FD, you're like the guy who runs the whole thing. You should probably know all the people in it.
Right.
So I'm taking that one back. But like to be entertaining for more than like an hour where you're not talking to anyone in particular, like it's like
that's a real challenge. It's a skill. And I think
so I give him a little bit more credit. I definitely was like really hard on them before I did it. And then I was like, okay, it's like one of those things where it's like, you know, apparently this is like a thing with stand-up comedy. I think it would be really hard, but like some people are like, I could do that. I make people at the office laugh. And then you get up there and you're like, whoa, this is the same thing.
Yeah. And even stand up, like you have a crowd right there who is, you know, like you're feeding off of and doing things like that with the live stream. It's just like,
it's like I had the comments up and like, you know, sometimes you'd say something funny and like you could see like comments happen, but like there'd be 15 minutes or something where like not a single comment would happen. And like, you're just like, well, somebody's listening, I think, you know?
Yeah. Kudos to those guys. But I don't know. I feel like coming full circle, Sage should have definitely explained what in the pocket is if he's gonna drop it, you know, because I think
not just drop it, but like
repeatedly. That's his
catchphrase.
Yeah.
No one knows what it means.
Yeah.
Because like on those responses, like I had like 50 people respond because everyone thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And there was like a lot of people like giving me like wrong answers only kind of responses. And I'm like, okay, these are good. And then like a couple people were like, I think it means this. No one's like, it means this. No one gave me like a definitive answer. And I'm like, that's how you know no one knows
for sure
exactly what it is.
For sure.
But there was like 3 people who all kind of said similar things, but not exactly the same thing. And that's bad. Yeah.
I think he probably, because his background is definitely like those dudes are super interesting. I think from like just the overall, like, and I hope somebody one day like just does a overarching documentary about drifting in the United States and like definitely gives them the respect that they deserve, you know, or talk about how they definitely help develop a lot of drivers in the United States, whether you feel like they're doing, you know, whatever your opinion is on it now in terms of Formula Drift and professional drifting, like they were a huge part of it. So
talking to Benson, it was like they chose to go with Formula Drift instead of D1 in the US. Like all the drivers got together and they're like, it was up to them. Like, it's like, you know, you're not gonna have a series without drivers, and all the drivers are like, let's give this a shot, you know? And I mean, I'm sure it's like a monumental amount of effort. And you know, you can't cater to the fucking annoying like no,
for sure. But it's like you know, I know his background is, you know, more surfing and snowboarding and things like that, so it's like I know enough from watching World Surf League that in the pocket, you know, is a thing.
Is that so like
commentary.
So they say that like during
Oh,
surf competitions.
for sure.
Okay.
So it's like if you're getting barreled and like you're really just playing, and I guess I don't even know if it necessarily means in a barrel. It could also mean on like a wave face where it's breaking, like the part closest to where the wave's actually breaking would technically be considered the pocket, because it's like if you think about it, it's sort of a crease, you know, and like you essentially that's where like the steepest angle of the wave is going to be at, where you can generate the most power, and like where you should probably be performing most of your actions, you know, while surfing should be in the pocket.
Okay.
So like it's a bit of a stretch
and
to
the
me,
wave
like
the wave look itself looks like a pocket.
right, because it's like if
you're like literally in like a
you're
pocket.
you're in the pocket, yeah. Because like if you're getting barreled, like you're really in the pocket, you know, and like just poking out of there. But like if you're doing like a cool cutback, like on top of the wave, like you're trying to do it right in the steepest spot by where it's breaking. So
in the Bay Area, if you say out of pocket, that means you're like acting poorly, you know, like you're out of pocket. You're crossing the line.
I like that, man.
And then like my girlfriend said that in like the business world, out of pocket means like you're not available for contact. And I was like, you guys stole that. That was never a thing.
Oh, for sure.
I feel like somebody in San Francisco at some tech companies like out of pocket. Oh, I wonder what that means. And then they like started some dumb office slang.
Yeah.
Or I'm just an idiot and I don't know anything. But or all the above.
I feel like the business world definitely is leeching stuff from cultural things. So it's like it's some dude that's just walking down the street and he was like heard somebody calling somebody else out of pocket.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, sorry, Steve, I'm out of pocket today."
Yeah. So like out of pocket to me in the pocket, I'm like in the like, you know, holding pockets in jail is like something very different, you know.
Oh yeah.
I had no surfing context. All I had was out of pocket, which is like you're acting out of line, and like holding pockets, which is I'm not gonna explain, but
yeah,
you can Google it if you want. I was like, what does that have to do with drifting?
Yeah.
But when you explain it came from surfing, I was like, okay, kind of.
I guess I can see the correlation in that, like the wave's constantly moving and the lead driver that you're following, you know, is the spot on their door, like this spot, like where you're not in the smoke, but you're like in the little pocket of not smoke, you know, like by their door to the front wheel and front fender. So it's like trying to just keep yourself in that spot in tandem so that you don't get like, you know, too deep where you can't see anything and you're just driving blind.
Yeah. I guess those of us in the annoying purist section of drifting kind of have to like appreciate Formula D to like set the two apart, you know? Like, because they are so different. It's like, you know, but only people like in drifting really see that. Like, you know,
for sure.
Like you show your aunt a drift car and it, you know, she'll see like a Honda Civic on the street and be like, oh, is that what you're into? You know, like 99.9% of the world can't tell the difference between, you know, a like Mazda 3 with wheels on it and like what we're into, you know?
Dude, and then even just think about it on like another level where it's like you explain to somebody like what you think good car style is, and then like your aunt sees a car and doesn't realize that like the wheels are knockoffs or like the kit's something else or that it's in poor taste, right? So it's the level of nuance to this stuff is so minute that it's like this is good but this is bad, and it's like obviously something that's like so subjective, but like is something that like I love about drifting, because I love people that are like so passionate about one particular thing that they'll like nitpick something about over particularities, you know, because it's like, well, you don't understand because like this comes from this, and like this dude knocked off this guy's kit, so that's not cool to run this one, but like this one's an authentic one, and like I have respect for this because, you know, it's like, we like when you and I were in Japan, it's like I think just seeing things like firsthand gives you so much of an appreciation for like, and that I think that's where it comes from, is it's like applying, you know, at least in my opinion, in like the US version of what we're talking about, like US drifting is like looking at Japan, and those dudes aren't that outspoken, but like we're taking everything that they have style and we're willing to be like, no, but that's shit. Like on top of that, where they're like, not, you know,
dude, there's people from here who hate on Japan style and like and there's like people who hate on like nuanced small things in Japan. Like, oh, I hate when they do this. And it's like, all right, there's somebody that's going to hate everything, but I guess that's what makes it, you know, everybody's got their own taste, which is interesting. Like that's what keeps it interesting. Like if everybody liked the exact same thing, we would all drive the flavor of the month, like have it be 5-6 years ago, everyone would have like BN and KFs and, you know, whatever
Right.
motor was, you know, like it's okay to have different tastes. Like that's where like the cool, like small wheels, like, you know, like old like 90s aero thing like kind of started coming back, because everyone's like, BN, what's the opposite of that? I want this, you know. And
for
then
sure.
it's like, all right,
We're seeing like Casey's car when we were in Japan, you know,
yeah.
like, and you're like, he was one of the first guys that I really saw kind of doing that, and like kind of just going the opposite direction, you know, of what everybody else was kind of doing at that point. And it was like, that was super cool to see. And it gives you an appreciation for it, you know, because it's I think that's the cool thing with life is that, you know, it's like there's a really good quote from, there's like a Beastie Boys book and like their like documentary about it, and it was like, because people really criticized them for being kind of big misogynists in like the 80s and like just spraying Budweiser on girls and like just objectifying women and doing all this stuff. And like,
Dude, I watched that. It was, or I would at least watch like the video version.
Yeah.
Man, that was so good.
It's so good. So
Yeah.
good. And I forget who it, I think it like, I forget who it was that might have been Ad Rock, but like I think he says like, you know, at least I'm not the same person anymore. Like you can call me a hypocrite, but like it's basically just in reference to growth, like that you're not the same person anymore. And like I think that's what's cool about taste and style is that like we could look back and be like, yeah, that was sick like 5 years ago when everybody had big lipped like, you know, VSKFs and like we're running BN and like we're doing this type of stuff with paint. And then now it was like, well, but do you see what these dudes are doing with hotchis and like small wheels and like putting small wheels on other chassis? And it's like, I think that's the rad thing is it's like, yeah, the stuff I was into 10 years ago when I first got an S chassis is entirely different than the stuff I'm into today, you know?
Yeah, no question. I mean, they're, and there's like, as more people get into it, then they get into it and see different things from different eras and stuff. And then they'll pick pieces from each of those and put those together too, which is like kind of interesting. Like you'll see, like, I don't know, you'll see like a really clean BN car that's like not on the floor with like, you know, kind of like more motorsports wheels on it, and they're like kind of doing more like the, you know, it's just interesting to see how people can, and sometimes it doesn't work and sometimes you're like, yo, that's really cool. Like,
yeah,
I didn't think that you could put those two styles together.
Right.
And that's just what, I don't know, it's just gonna keep happening. And so like, yeah, there's a lot of people doing played out stuff and, you know, whatever, but like, yeah, whatever makes people happy, I guess. As long as they're not hurting anybody.
No, definitely not. And I think that's the one thing I like from all the friends and people I've met through drifting is it's like no one really comes to it with just a drifting background, because it's usually something you get into in like your late teens or like 20s, you know. It's like you have to be able to drive to do it, and like by that point you've already had, you know, this like formative life experience where you're like, oh, I was skating or riding BMX or riding dirt bikes or like doing other things. And then like you bring all of that, like, you know, knowledge and, you know, opinions about style and stuff into it. And then, you know, people have day jobs and careers and do all kinds of other things too. And it like makes multifaceted individuals that are, you know, cool to talk with and learn about, you know.
I do like that about drifting. Like, I don't know, you travel way more than I do, but you get to meet people from all over the world, and having that like commonplace is so cool, because it's like you like instantly have something to talk about. You have it be car setup or style or, you know, what, you know, or have it not even be related to drifting, but at least that you have that like starting place.
For sure. And I don't think there's any, like, I think you could argue that it's like even a better starting place than a lot of other hobbies or interests, because like people who are into it have put so much into it and it's not cheap, and, you know, it takes a lot of effort to do. So it's like I was saying, like you might be a dude that was like, oh, well, did you see that skate film, or do you remember this dude skating? And it's like, that's a all right connection. But like drifting's one of those ones. It's like, I feel like it's a smaller discipline, like not as many people are into it. So it's like when you meet somebody that does that, you're like, oh, dude.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of like, yeah, the level of entry takes a bit of dedication. It's like, okay, sure, you have to turn your car that you drive to work into a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And like all for this thing that no one's going to understand.
Right.
Except for like maybe 3 or 4 of your friends.
Yeah.
And then the other group of your friends like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah.
You sold your reliable commuter car and now you drive this bucket? Like
Yeah.
what the fuck is wrong with you? Like,
Yeah. And I think you have to learn so many other things to just be able to go drift. It's not like, oh, well,
yeah.
like I figured out which, like, which trucks and bushings I liked and which bearings were better, which grip tape I like. It was like, nah, man, like,
Yeah, I ride a, you know, I think I'm gonna change it up to 825, dude.
yeah. Yeah, because it's like there's so many things like, oh yeah, you remember when you didn't put your lug nuts on, or like didn't understand how to load a trailer, or like, had all these issues or like
Fucking
stuff, like things rattle off of your cars, or like the first time you ever put like a turbo setup together and it just shakes itself loose because like you don't know how much torque you need to put into things or like
yeah.
know about.
Julian said it his first drift event, one of his wheels came off.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
The first time I loaded a trailer, it took me 4 hours.
it's not a skill set that I feel like people like. Where do you learn that from? Like maybe if your dad or grandpa or mom or like
I did not have that.
grow up on a farm. I don't know.
Yeah, I did not have that. I just had friends that like one of this person knew this thing and this person knew that thing, and I was like, all right, I'm doing this today. Like, hey man,
Yeah,
I could really use like at least some pointers, or you go to Zilvia and just get fucking shit on.
yeah.
I think the kid, like, I guess they have Facebook groups now and everyone, people shit on each other in there, but like, man, some like at least you know who it is who's like giving you a hard time. Like back in the day, like when I was first getting started, I had a Lancer and I would go on Evolution M and I had a Lancer on Evolution M and I was 16. It was like it was just dorks, like it was like autocross nerds just like beating me to death with like use the search feature. I'm like,
yeah. And it's like, but if you think about that, like if somebody were to ever explain to you like the work reward payoff for drifting, no one would do it. Like if someone ever said like, yo man, like you're gonna like, it's like a choose your own adventure where like all of the outcomes are usually shitty and bad and like suffering and like just require time and money. And it's like, if anyone ever loaded it to you like that, like, but that's the thing is like people who are inquisitive and like self-starters and willing to like, go out and learn things by themselves are who are successful at it. Right. It's like, that's what it takes.
Absolutely. It took me 10 years to get my car where I like don't feel like I need to change something every time I drive it.
Right. But I think that's what the big payoff is, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like there's like I haven't driven in like a year and a half at this point, and it's like, like the last time I did, I can remember it was like super good, and it's like I don't have a good reason not to, but like, it's like when you are in those times, like if you're in the Luke phase where you're like completely rebuilding your car, it's like the amount of time and like hours and stuff you put into it, like it can be pretty daunting. Like if you were like, be like, hey man, like you might get to go do the dyno, you might blow up, you might also get to go do like 3 laps and blow up your car, but like, or it could be really sick and you could, go run a whole event for like, years and years and years and like have a great time with your friends. And like, is that worth it? Like, yeah, I think once you do it, you're just like, yeah, I'm hooked. It's over,
Yeah. I was like explaining to my brother because he's not into cars much, but he's younger. He's 6 years younger than me, and he's trying to like kind of like get going. Like he's in LA and he's just kind of struggling, and he's like a creative and is like, doesn't really know what his worth is yet. And like he's successful as far as like the work that he's done, but he's not like he hasn't monetized it well, and he's just kind of like trying to. And we were like talking about drifting or whatever, and he's like, yeah, I mean, like I was explaining to him how long it took me to get to where I'm at, and I'm still like not anything, and I pretty much what I told him was like, hey man, I go to work and then I go work on my car sometimes from like after work to like 12 o'clock at night, like I'm like, you're gonna have to like find that like double time hustle to like get where you want to be. And it's not like I'm trying to like say, look at me, I'm doing well or whatever, but it's just like from my experience, that's what it took, like I had to realize you get out of things what you put in. And like I think it was like very special for me to like be in the group that I'm in, because I'm surrounded by like so many dedicated people, and I get to meet even more dedicated people doing this. And as that happens, like you see what they like, you know, you see what people dedicate to doing XYZ. Like I'm sure it's the same thing with you and like video, man. Like you guys are out there all like Alex Dalton, great friend of mine, like he is out there running around all day just trying to get shots in the sun, dying, you know, like and for what, to put a video on YouTube? Like it's kind of the same concept, you know, like you get out of it what you put in. Like if you're just gonna sit on the wall and just like film pan cars as they go by, you're not gonna have anything,
Right.
you know. Like if you're out there like getting different angles and like really putting thought into it and stuff, like it's, yeah, you get out of it what you put in. And like that, luckily I think my brother already kind of did that. I just was like telling, I don't know, I was trying to give him a pep talk or whatever, but
Yeah. It's what's funny is that the extra little bit too is really what makes like all the difference. And like I think that it's so hard to realize, you know, like if you don't come from like a background or personality type where it's like you want to work and like constantly improve and like things like that. Like if that's not you, right? Like it's so hard to realize like, oh yeah, like doing this is like, you know, doing this one extra little bit is what could separate you from somebody else, you know, like getting 1 or 2 extra shots could like, you know, be something that it's really like, it's hard to plot a course in life and say like, oh, this is how you get from A to B, because like that path doesn't exist for everyone, and no two people's like journey and that type of thing are ever the same or similar. So it's like, it's you know, but it's, I see it always like you'll be on a project. Like I was doing this, we were doing an edit today, and like we're like, man, why don't we have like this one B-roll shot of like a location? Like if we had that one shot, it would have like set up this whole scene that we're working on. And it's like just that one person going out and shooting that would have like changed everything about that. And like that dude would have been the hero of the entire shoot for like getting that one thing. And like it's funny how that works out. Like I know some people that got like their big break from, you know, either getting that one trick like in snowboarding and being the guy that got the shot, or like being the guy that got the shot of a crash like in Formula D or in racing or something. And then like somebody's like, yo, I want to buy that clip, like, and that was like what set them up to, you know, be successful creatively or to have more opportunities. So that's kind of wild.
yeah, I mean, you definitely, I don't know if everyone knows this, but you definitely had a big hand in making Animal Style as popular as they are with your videos.
That's sick to hear. I mean, that's like a big group effort though, because obviously it's like,
do you know how many times I have heard I got into drifting because I saw that parking lot video with Snoop Dogg at the end?
That's so good.
And I'm like, dude, are you kidding? Like literally, like people come up and ask for a ride along, and I was like, bro, like I shot a clip on my iPhone in that video. I was there, I wasn't driving, you know, but like I'll take you for a ride, you know. But just like because it's the team, like they like people, that video like really really hypes people on like a, and it like got people into like the particular type of drifting that, you know, we like to do, which is cool. Like that's huge. Like I don't think people realize. So shout out to
that's rad. But I mean, like, but that's the thing is like, if you think about all the people that are there with phones and cameras and like outside of myself and, you know, Brandon, like it was like, there's so many people there that got shots that made that video what it is. And like, I think just the concept of it too, because like the initial one was what, like Ryan, or is it just Julian and Hurt? Like Hurt was filming the first one, I think.
It was Julian in his S14 when it was primer, and Ryan in his FD car, but they like slammed it.
Yeah.
And that one was cool. That one blew up too, man. That was like a big deal. I remember watching that, like, man.
Yeah.
I think I'll be honest here. Like, also, Nacho, the guy I was talking about with the really nice KA-T, he was in your Keep Drifting Fun video.
Oh, no way.
In Houston at the time. Yeah.
That's cool.
So like he's my, anyway, whatever. I'll circle back to motivation. Not being like watching the video that Brandon and you put out, and then the video that you put out from Japan.
Yeah.
Made me reconsider like my approach to drifting, because I wanted to be driving so bad, and I knew that my skill level was not where it needed to be. and at the time, and there was no way I was going to be one of those people going, right? Like when I heard it was going, like, you know, there was talks about it for a long time, or like we're shipping cars to Japan, and, you know, like in the back of my mind I was like, I would do like anything to do this, you
Yeah.
know, but I just knew it's like a show of skill. We're shipping cars to Japan, and I knew like this is the skill level that they're at, and I'm down here, and that's not going to get me there. And then like seeing the videos, and I spent more time like hanging out and getting drunk and you know, having a good time, and than I did like really like engaging in, because I'd been before, and I felt like, I don't know, I had like a weird view of it or whatever, but like seeing those videos I was like, okay, no, like this is not, you know, I need to stop like deciding that like I need to put in what they put in, or I'm never gonna like be at their level, kind of thing. So that was a big motivator. I don't know.
That's dope to hear. It's also cool to know that like you had the, you know, ability to be critical enough of yourself to like not be in like some blowing yourself up in your head space where you're like, oh, I can do this, and then like, you know, go over there and not find the success that you want, or feel like you're not on a level, and then also to get motivation from it in the end, you know, to clearly do what you're doing right now, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was tough. That was some serious personal growth. Cause I don't know, 2 years before that, I would have been like, man, fuck that. I could have been there with them. Like,
Yeah.
I'm on the team, you know, like I don't know. As you get older, you just get like beaten down by life, and you like realize you're like, I guess I'm not shit, but like, I'll try. You know?
Yeah. No, that was a super good trip. Cause I had like another trip to Japan prior to that, and I've been once since after that, but like the first one was automotive related, and that one was like, you know, to be able to go to Meihan and be there with all of you guys was the coolest part, you know, like to get to experience it like that was unreal.
That one shot you got of Fujio like on the wall, I was just like, oh.
But that's what you sit around for like all day. You're like, when is the shot happening? You know, because I feel like because like, you know, I had watched, you know, Yusuke's videos, and I was like, okay, like I know this is going to happen at some point today, but like how much time do I want to dedicate to just filming the entry, you know, and like in the wall, because like it's not a, you know, it could be a pretty futile endeavor, you know, if you're just sitting there and you're like, cool, what'd you get from today? You're like, oh, I got a bunch of people getting really close to the wall.
I'm glad Brandon threw me a camera, because I actually felt purpose.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. I was like, I got a job to do, you know, because like sitting at a track and not driving, and is, even though it's really sick to watch, like after a while you're just like, I want to drive. Like I need something to do. Like I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah.
You know? You're like, does someone need to change an axle? Like, you know, like, and
the one that I thought was dope from that is like, I forgot that I didn't realize that Ilya was going to be there. And then like he had just showed up, you know, like, cause we were there early, like those guys were sorting out their cars and everything.
We almost didn't make it because of Ilya.
Really?
Yeah. Ilya stayed with us in the hotel. It was me, Dalton, and Ilya.
Okay.
And I was like, because there were vans, right? And they were full. And Ilya's like, we'll just rent a car. It's fine. I was like, all right, like, just so you know, I've tried to rent a car the day of or the day before, and it never worked out for me. And it's usually like, I went to like because I went to Fukushima the first time I went to Japan in 2016 with my girlfriend to go to Ibisu or Ebisu, you know, whatever. And I'm walking around a non-speaking English at all, like country town, and walking into different car rental places and trying to rent a car day of at like 2 in the afternoon. And I have never felt dumber in my life than trying to like communicate with these people that I need a car right now. I got one, but it took 4 hours of like, not 4 hours. It was like 2.5 hours of walking all around, probably getting radiated. And like, but we made it, which is sick. But I told Ilya this, and then he's like, oh no, I got one. I was like, all right, cool, it's fine. All right. So we like went to sleep, woke up, and then they were like, actually there's room in the vans. You guys want to go? And we all kind of like looked at each other, and I was like, I don't know, man, about the rental car thing, but I'm pretty tired. And like, we all kind of just looked at each other like, ah, fuck it, it'll be fine, you know?
Yeah.
So Al and Austin both also didn't make it on the vans because they slept in. So we all like linked up and we're like, we got a car. They walked for like 2 hours through Osaka, like trying to find the car place and couldn't. We got there and they were like, oh, you don't have a reservation. And we're like, no, like it's like 11. It was like I think like 9:30 a.m. or something, or like 10 a.m. And we're just like, it's like 40 minutes from Osaka to Mayon. And it's like, I don't know if we're gonna be able to go, guys. Like, I don't know how we're gonna get there. So we were like calling people and they were like talking about like, you know, someone taking a van from the track and all this other stuff, but like no one wanted to leave, right? Because it was like this really big event. Everyone's like, I'm not leaving. Like, fuck these guys. So luckily, Ilya with his like movie star hair was like sweet talking the guys at the place, and that one of them literally like pulled out a bicycle and rode off, and we're like, okay. They're like, oh, he's gonna go get you a car, and we're like, but you know, obviously not. More in Japanese.
Yeah.
And like 45 minutes later he comes back with a car and we like jump in and we're like, holy shit, we like almost didn't make it. So there's like 5 of us all like packed in this like tiny, you know, K car, like we're going, you know. It was like this really like yeah. Anyway, sorry. Yes, he was there.
Yeah. He it's like, because I think, you know, it's like we knew that you guys were there and obviously staying in a different spot, and then but he had just showed up, and like that was the beginning of like the Ilya traveler of the worlds. Like he would just like randomly show up in places, you know, and like you're just like, what is going on? And you know, I think like kind of like you guys, and like it's like was definitely rad to hear you say that, like, you know, there's a lot of people that attribute the Sharking Lot videos to like getting them into drifting. Like I think and it's like, you know, Brandon and I both did a lot of, and Josh, you know, both did a lot of the Final Bout videos like early on. And like I can definitely say, like, you know, Ilya and those guys are like some of the other key reasons why I think a lot of people's enthusiasm for drifting in the United States like is what it is, or like allowed that growth, you know, to happen. Because like the amount of conversations like I've had with that guy about like, you know, even just talking about the Final Bout videos, and he would just get into some like really kind of meta headspace about drifting and like talking about it, and you're just like, yeah, I enjoy these conversations, but I'm not sure who else is into it this much. But like, you know, you and I can have this conversation, and like he'd be like, oh, let's figure out a way to like convey this in the video, or bring up this, and like it was like, yeah, this is you're like a philosopher of drifting, man.
He's a unique individual, to say the least. Like, and like when we're on our way, the entire time this is going down, he's not worried at all. And I'm pretty like, you know, I get anxious and stuff, and I'm like, you know, like I'm like looking up other like car rental places. He's like, it's fine, I got it. I'm like, you know, and then like it came through, and like he didn't even do like a nice. He was just like, all right, cool, and like jumps in the car and like drives off and started talking about like turbo and like cam. Like he was like explaining to me like how you want to pair, like how you figure out how you pair cams and turbo size. And I was like, huh, like not worried at all. Like he was like cool, calm, collected the entire time. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, they got me. I had like a friend, we were swapping my KA on my first 240, and he showed me like one of the like old Risky Devils videos by like T2 film.
Dude. Yeah, T2.
Yeah. And it was like, I don't know, it was just like, it was like Dom Kennedy and like just like rap shit. It was like, it felt like a skate video, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is different, you know? Because like you'd only ever seen option video. So you're like, oh, like, you know, dudes half naked, like, you know, and like girls in cheetah like costumes and stuff, and like dudes like ripping and people hitting each other with like fake hammers and stuff. And you're like, that's cool.
Yeah.
And you saw that, you're like, oh, this is like Chicago street skating like in drift form. What is this? This is sick. And I was like, okay, we need to go street drifting.
It was so unique to like get the first kind of, you know, like hints of Risky Devil, and like just see what those guys were about and stuff. And like I think they had something, and they still do, like have something that's so unique in their own, you know, and feels really like homegrown in a sense that like, you know, they kind of went their own direction in drifting with like heavy influence, but like made something that like, I don't know, like Chicago is like a great city in terms of culture and food and music and stuff like that. And like, it's not a surprise, but like, you're like, these dudes are in downtown Chicago, just like drifting these shitty spots. Like
you're like, dude, I'm pretty sure they filmed fucking Batman there. Like,
right. Yeah. And they do. That was like, I mean, like when we go on cruises with those guys, like I think they're in like Lower Wacker and like all these spots where, they're like Batman locations. So it's like, and that's the cool thing for us is like going to the final bouts and stuff. Like you get to go and hang out with those guys in Chicago and drive around the city and like see all these things and see things from their perspective. And you're like, how does this exist? Like I would just get pulled over in 3 seconds in California if I was doing that.
I think that's the other thing. It's like, all right, you guys got it good.
Yeah.
A little bit. Like, you guys got it pretty good. I'm a little jealous every time I see like, like, wow, you got like literally the second coolest clip in Lower Wacker is like the Batman scene, like there's like some cool street drifting stuff. I mean, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
But obviously like not quite as cinematic, but whatever.
But dude, yeah, it's about the action, right? It's not about the
and they put in a lot of effort on the final bout stuff. Like it's just seeing what like Julian and those guys go through to do Super D, and man, like putting on events is gnarly.
And I think to have like the foresight, from like an Ilya perspective to like be like, hey, we're not just doing this at US Air, like we want to grow it and we want to like grow it out and like, make it different regions of the country and eventually try to bring everyone together. Because, it's like that was the cool thing and the aspirational part of it was like, let's get everybody together in one spot and do this thing. But like, if you pick one year, you're like 6 months or 8 months out, like you might not have your car done. You might not have the money that year to do it. Like it just might be outside of your realm of, possibilities, and like doing it year after year and like seeing the evolution of things is like, it just gets better and better,
I think, again, on like the personal growth thing, like the first final bout, I was like, man, fuck that. That's far. Like I can't, I was like, I didn't have money back then either. So I was like, how are you guys going to get out to Wisconsin? Like,
right.
Dude, I had barely left like California as like a human, like let alone bring my car to like halfway across or more than halfway across the country. I was like, it can't be that cool. And then, oh man, like I saw the Super Street article and like all the videos, and I was just like, oh, what have I done? Like I made a mistake. Like I should have just like scrambled and figured out the cash to do that, because like the first one just looks so fun.
When Hobo lived in Chicago, he's there for like a year, I think. Like he would just talk my ear off about US Air. He was like, US Air is like one of the best tracks in the US for drifting. He was like, it is such a fun. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like it was just like, okay, Josh, like you're just blowing this out of proportion. And then like you go there and you're like, I'm an idiot for not bringing my car or like not setting something up to be able to go drive this, because this looks like so much fun.
I still haven't driven it.
Me neither. I mean, like it's just the flow on it looks so good.
We'll make it happen someday.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll do it together, man.
We'll do it
I'll come pick you up in Big Bear.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll link up somewhere.
Yeah, with my stacker once I hit the lotto.
Oh man.
Once this podcast takes off, bro.
Yeah.
So get sponsored by who would even sponsor this?
Dude, there's a lot of like, I've been driving across the country a bunch this year for work, and like I've been listening to podcasts. It's like the same people that sponsor every podcast.
I need to just hit them up, be like, hey, you guys sponsor every podcast.
Yeah.
Sponsor one more.
Yeah. Yo, Me Undies. Like I know you got money. I'll make whatever promo you want.
Yeah, dude, let's make Tandem of Dye underwear.
Yeah.
Those guys are always in them anyway.
Right.
Yeah. You've kind of taken off doing like, okay, so I watched the Pikes Peak video, and then I watched, what's it called? The movie with the dog, Art of Racing in the Rain. And then I saw the executive producer was the guy that you made the video for.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit. I was like, okay.
So the cool story about that is like the second year I think I was shooting Formula Drift. So I think that would have been 2009. Like Reese Millen was like, hey, you should come to Pikes Peak and film for me. And like I had a pretty good relationship with Reese, and I mean I still do, like, but he was like, yeah, I'm racing the Genesis right after the Las Vegas round of Formula Drift. I'm gonna like, trailer the car up there and then we're gonna go run Pikes Peak. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do this. And then made the video for him that year. And then the next year got a call from Jeff Zwart. And like, I didn't know who Jeff was, but Jeff is, like a legendary automotive photographer and director. And, he just wasn't on my radar at all. And he saw the film I did for Reese. And then Jeff and I have become friends over the years because I've shot him up there now 6 times, I think, racing up at Pikes Peak.
Yeah.
So it's like all these different Porsche platforms, that he's had there. And like, yeah, I mean, just working with Jeff, like, because he'll race, but then he's also, like he directed GT Academy, which is a TV show I worked on. And that was like Nissan and PlayStation's joint effort to like get guys that were in Gran Turismo and then put them in real cars. And that was on Spike, and then it was on something else as a network. And that was all, it was in the US to start with, and then it was in Silverstone, England at the racetrack. So that was rad. And we did 3 seasons of that. I was an operator on that. And then, yeah, like Jeff would be like, hey, I'm doing a Firestone commercial. Do you want to come camera operate on it? Or like the movie one was a super dream because it was like second unit is, all action. It's not any kind of dialogue or anything like that. So it's like, hey, we're going to this racetrack and we just need you to film, the racing scenes. And I think there was, 3 other camera operators, and then Jeff was camera operating too. And it was like, we were up there.
Oh, so you worked on that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What? That's crazy. That's so cool.
So like in the movie, when he's like racing the Turner BMW and they do like the pit stops. And then when he's getting in the Porsche, and then some of the action shots, are mine. So it's like from Mosport, which was super cool to go up to. Like it was all shot in Canada, at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, which is like north of Toronto, which is an awesome track. And it has like the whole idea was like they're being really smart for a production. They said we need to get the most out of shooting 3 or 4 days and kind of cover his whole racing career in that movie. And they're like, so he needs to be in, like a prototype car. He needs to be in the, I think it was a BMW M4. I'm trying to remember what that was.
Seemed like it. I don't know.
And then so they're like, he needs to have this evolution of his racing career that goes along with the book and the movie. And so they're like, yeah, we're going to do it at Mosport because it looks like a couple of different tracks. Like we can make the wooded section kind of look like this track, and we can make this other section look like a different track. And that was unreal, man. Like that was definitely the biggest production I've ever worked on. It was, full union production. And like, there's like, a dedicated semi truck that just has craft services in it. And it's like just people making food. And then like, there's that scene where it starts raining and like everybody puts their umbrellas up. Like they shot that there, and like they had like 250 extras. They were all just there for that one shot, to like, okay, here's umbrellas, like put up the umbrellas and the rain towers to make it rain and all this stuff. It was crazy.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So you went from like, did you mainly like, how did you get into doing videography stuff? Like, did you always do it?
I did photography and like arts growing up for sure. Like in high school, I started shooting black and white 35 millimeter, and like super lucked out that the high school I went to had a lab. So it's like you could take black and white photography as a class, which I feel like I can't even imagine that a lot of schools are even doing that these days. So
probably not.
Yeah, it was like, it was incredible. Like it was so cool to just be like, all right, go wind your own film and go shoot it and then bring it back in and process it and then, make prints. And so I think that really got like the love of photography ingrained. And then when I went to college, I tried to study business and did terrible at it. And I had, I was an RA. So I like had, a bunch of people living on the floor that I was in charge of. And one of the guys on my floor was a film major, and he was like, I was helping him with a project, and I was like, this is pretty rad. Like maybe I should switch to film production. And so I did, and then got my degree in that, and then moved to California. And kind of the second job that I had in living in Los Angeles was with like John Adair and a lot of the Super Street guys. So like they had all left the magazine world because they kind of saw their writing on the wall in like 2007, 2008 and said like, this isn't going to exist in the same form anymore. Like we need to make it all online. We need to start making video. And they were super ahead of the time for sure. Like they were essentially trying to make vlog and event style content in 2008.
Dang.
Yeah. And like, so I worked with them for 8 or 9 months, and that's how I got into shooting drifting. Is that, you know, we were doing a series on Pat Mordaunt, and he was, you know, who we were following as a driver in Formula Drift. And what's funny is that how I got involved at Rice Boy TV, which was the company, like was through a guy I knew from doing video production at like the Sundance Film Festival. Like we were doing video for them, and he was a shooter editor there. And he said, "Oh, you're into cars. Like you would probably like this job way more than I do, because I'm not into cars, and nobody that works here on the video side is into cars." And I was like, "What?" And I knew all those guys from reading Super Street growing up. I was like, "Oh, I know Ricky Chu. I know John." Like I was like, this is something I'm into, you know, because like
crazy.
Yeah. And so then I got in there, and like it's exactly like kind of what we were talking about. Is it's not hard to stand out like when you're passionate about what you're doing. Like the other guys are all in their late 20s and 30s, you know, and like I was in my early 20s, and like I just wanted to go to events and be around the culture because I appreciated it, and they could care less, you know. So
yeah, they're like, "Oh yeah, get some shots of that." All right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, because
we'll be here chilling.
They literally were like, "Who wants to go to Atlanta and go to Formula Drift?" And those guys were like, "I don't really want to travel." And I was like, "Yeah, dude, of course. Put me on the plane. Let's go."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And I mean, through that is really just how I, you know, kind of met everyone, you know, in drifting. And it's kind of crazy that it was like a weird path like that, where it was like, "Oh, go shoot pro drifting." And then like once you're shooting pro drifting, you realize like, oh man, like there's some cool people in here, but like all of the really cool people are the people that are coming to the events and like bringing their cars and then going and doing the other events, right? So it's like that's how I met like Andy Sapp and like Matt Petty and Josh Heron and all these guys. Was like, you know, you're doing things like that, and you make a bunch of friends, and they're like, "Hey dude, you want to come shoot our event?" Or, you know, like that's how, you know, you become friends with the Katos and stuff, is that you're hanging around the FD paddock, and you're like, "Oh man, who's got food? I'm an idiot and I don't bring food." Like, "Oh, Don's been cooking. Let me swing by there."
Every time I drive through or go to Sacramento, I always see if the food truck's like anywhere. I'm like, I gotta hit that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the full circle kind of path of it. Is like, yeah, it was what super lucked out was that when I did the website stuff with Naderi, who's now at Hoonigan, which is pretty rad. So John Naderi's been at Hoonigan for years now, which is really cool. Like his whole path of being like editor-in-chief of Super Street, and then, you know, like working for Saatchi and doing Toyota advertising, and like, you know, I mean, he's like a super OG within, you know, the import and sport compact kind of world. So it's like, it's cool to, you know, have a long-standing kind of relationship with him, and he can be like, "Oh, I was the dude that gave this guy his shot in making automotive content."
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And that's was being there was like when I bought my S14, was like, you know, working with those guys, and I was like, "Oh, I have this beater Mazda 626, and I've always wanted to get something cool." And like being around Pat, you know, who was driving an S chassis at that point, and then, you know, Ricky, who had owned a few S chassis, they were like, "Oh dude, I have a friend that's got a 95 S14. You should just buy it from him." And I think it was on Meisters, and I was an idiot at that time. And I was like, "Oh, I don't want those wheels. I can get some free wheels from NK or something." And I was like, what am I, like, in retrospect, I was like, what am I doing?
The guy was like, "Okay."
He's like, right.
I'm not going to argue with that on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you were into cars, but you didn't really, So you were
got too expensive in college. Like I had friends that had like DC2 Integras and Preludes, and like I was definitely into Hondas in high school. Like I always wanted to build an EG or an EK and like do an H swap or something, because that was before K swap stuff. And I was like, "Oh, that's super cool. I want to do that." But like, you know, make money. So you're like, "Oh, well, I'll just keep buying these magazines and dreaming about doing this one day." And then, then it just, you know, once I got exposed to drifting, I was like, "Oh, this is a lot cooler than front wheel drive stuff," because you can kick the clutch everywhere and act like an idiot on the street and like slide around planners and do all this stuff.
Yeah. You're like, I need this. Like, this isn't like a want anymore. This is
Yeah.
Yeah. You've always had really nice cars.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I sold that black one to Dan Summer, who's at Hoonigan, and he put a 1J in that, or I put a 2J in it, I think, 2J. And I still have the car that used to be purple was now teal, and I changed that from Zenki to Koki. And
Nice.
yeah, that's like the one that's like I don't have a garage at the new place, so like I've been just keeping it in a storage unit and like debating on kind of what to do with it next. But I'm happy with that thing.
Yeah. Just keep it as long as you can.
Yeah,
They're
I love
getting
that.
crazy. Yeah.
I love that car, man. That was like a auto, like higher mileage auto car that it did a manual swap on, and then did a diff, and have done everything on it. Like I learned a lot of, I mean, like kind of like we were talking about earlier, like you got to learn so many skill sets, so it's like, oh, that's like what kind of taught me how to weld and like do basic body work and fiberglass work and like, all that kind of stuff.
You're like, I gotta learn how to be a repair technician. I have to learn how to be a fabricator. I have to learn how to be an auto transport, apprentice. I need to learn how to like.
Yeah. I mean, I learned how to paint doing it. Like it took me so much time because I was just wet sanding forever because I sprayed it.
Did you paint it yourself?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. When I painted it teal, I painted it myself. I did it in my garage and just used like a Harbor Freight gun and like a bigger Harbor Freight compressor and, messed up a couple of times, but then like, I feel like, a couple of the like panels I got nice, and I was like, oh, that actually turned out really good. And then other ones I'm like,
I learned that I did not have the patience to paint things. I have the patience to do wiring. Some people don't.
Yeah.
But as far as paint goes, man, it's not. Yeah. Every time I do it, I get really close to the end. I'm like, came out good. And then I just always like prematurely celebrate that it came out sick. And then it's like, oh, I actually did a terrible job at this.
I mean, the thing with doing it in like a small garage, right, is that I like built my own motor for a KA, like, got like forged pistons and rods and like assembled a
You did that yourself too? Man,
yeah, because I wanted to learn it. I wanted to learn it. Cool. And then like I was having so much trouble with it. And eventually I was like, I don't like this. So I'm just gonna take it to a machine shop and like just have them like blueprint balance it and check it out and make sure it's actually done right. Yeah. And then they tore it down and they were like, what did you build this in? They're like, this is the dirtiest engine we have ever seen. they're like, we're so glad you brought it to us because there's just dirt and like shavings on everything. They're like, this wouldn't have been good. And I'm like, well, glad I brought it to you guys, but yeah, I built it in my dirty garage.
I've had many of those moments in like I'll finish something. What? I'm trying to think of the most recent one. I don't know, man. It happens. You're like, I did this. I did it myself. And they're like, you shouldn't have. Yeah. You should not have even started this project. You're like, yeah. Okay. Nah. You learn from your mistakes.
For sure. And I feel like if you don't do it, how do you know you don't like doing it? Like I definitely bought a painless kit and like some stuff and was like, oh yeah, I'm going to wire this car. And then like, I was like, I'm not going to wire this car. This is like you said, like I'm one of those people that doesn't have the patience or like the electrical tracing knowledge to be able to like successfully wire something up.
But it's painless.
Right. Dude, the marketing got me hook, line, and sinker, dude. I was like, oh, it's going to be painless, man. It's fine. It's labeled. This thing goes to the alternator. It can't be that hard.
Yeah. No, I'm like happy that that's kind of the cool part about the team stuff is like everybody has their skill set. Like Jason's now doing motor builds. He's like easing his way into it, but I feel like he'll be good at it. And then like I'm the wiring guy. So like Luke was having, some issues that he needed to figure out with his like engine harness and stuff, which I just did mine myself for the first time. And it's really ugly, but it works.
Yeah.
It worked first try minus the one little flip, I don't want to talk about it.
But that's good though, man, because like I feel like even when I buy someone else's like wiring for an engine harness, I'm like,
you still have to do a little bit.
I'm like, I didn't plug that in, or like that's backwards, or like, I don't know.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. Everybody's got their skills. And then like I was like, hey Luke, can you weld up this like thing on my manifold for me? He's like, yeah, okay, sure. Like just come help me finish my car. So like that, I don't know. It's nice to have everybody have their
stuff. Guys are a well-rounded team. Cause I mean, Julian's been painting stuff like,
yeah, he painted a bunch of stuff on my car last time and it matched like perfect. The first time it didn't, and this time it came out like real nice.
Well, even the knuckles, like the first set of knuckles that I got when they were painted, like I was like, oh, these are cool. And then like the second ones I got, I was like, oh man, these are really well done.
Yeah. Have you gotten to drive on them much yet?
You know what, the black car I had like totally built up, and that was the one that I just got way in over my head. So like Dan's driven those knuckles probably now and probably enjoys them, and those are like the full drop knuckle one.
Yeah.
And then the other ones which were just the basic ones, like the non-roll center, non-drop type ones. I have on the teal car, and I love those. I think they're great.
Yeah.
Like, I think it just makes things so much happier, and like I appreciate that a lot.
I had only ever driven them on a almost destroyed car in Japan, and I was like, I don't know, there's just something doesn't feel right. I drove Jason's car and I was like, okay, it's decent, but his rack was moved like I don't know how much, but it's like enough where it does feel a little different. I drove Julian's car, but everything was like loose. It was it was similar to the like destroyed car in Japan. And so like I just had this thought in my mind, and I like it was like this thing that I couldn't say to anybody, but I was like, man, I don't know if they're that good.
Yeah.
Like maybe they're just not for me. Maybe it's like, maybe I don't see it. And then we went to Englishtown recently for Blood Masters. That's where I met Matt Petty, cool guy.
Yeah.
And all the rest of everybody out there was cool. They showed us a good time. They're a wild bunch.
Dude, well, that's like not to go totally off track on that with the knuckle thing, but like,
please,
if you have the Risky Devil guys who are like Chicago through and through, and then you have like a pseudo chopper biker gang from New Jersey who also drifts, like, what is that? Like, it's like it's such a crazy juxtaposition of things, and like as I get older, the cooler I think that is. Like,
yeah, they all rip too. It's like, I'm like, who the fuck are these guys?
Yeah.
Like, okay. I'm like, okay. I honestly, if you ever get a chance, like, talking about tracks that are awesome, dude, the different layouts that they have at Englishtown, man, that is a cool track. Like you can do high speed, you can do technical. It's long.
Yeah, the back section's fun.
I could not imagine hot lapping that thing.
No,
like I would just blow a head gasket because I wouldn't want to stop, man. Like,
yeah, I think one of the funny ones was that on one of the East Coast Bash events, Hobo got to drive Vaughn Ginn Jr.'s S13, which had an SR in it. So like the blue and white and red Drift Alliance car. And like nobody told him. Like I think like Tony had been beating it up, and like Chris had driven it a little bit, and like Vaughn had driven it a bunch, and like the motor was super weak and like about to go. And of course they're just like, yeah, Josh, go ahead and drive it, but hey man, if you mess it up, it might be on you. And like they're just like, he's just going out there, and like same sort of thing. Like you do 3 laps in a row in that track. It's so long. Like, yeah. And I think like it was pretty tired by the end of it, but he had a great time in that car and on that track. And like, we had shot all like the really early Turk stuff there, like Game of Drift and like all that stuff was there. And then, so I've been there, I've just never driven it. And like, I've seen what people can do there, and you're like, you can enter it like 100 miles an hour into that first sweeper.
Yeah.
And it's unreal.
I was pretty hungover, but Rich Whiteman, that's his name, Rich Whiteman, coolest name ever. He's like the coolest dude, man. He's just like he was like gonna offer me and Aaron to drive his Z, because he's like, oh yeah, if you go get my Z, like you guys could just share it tomorrow. We're like, okay. He ended up crashing his S13. Actually, it's Sylvia. And so he was driving it a bit, but he still came up and he's like, hey man, if you want to drive, like be my guest, like, take a couple laps. So we like went out there, and I was pretty hungover, but I still got to like give it a rip. It's like a stock Z with knuckles. I'm like, dude, this car's fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got to drive the track, and I'm like, okay, I need to come back here.
Yeah.
I have to finish my story about the Heatmaker knuckles, or I'm gonna get kicked off the team. I'm just kidding. So we get out there, and Jeff's car is like it's like immaculate. It's got like max knuckles on it and stuff. Like it's rear mount. That
dude builds some really pretty cars.
It is a absolute beautiful machine.
Yeah.
And Julian's like, "Oh, did you ever get those knuckles I sent you?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I think they're somewhere." He's like, "We should swap them." And I'm like, "I don't know, man. Like that's a lot of work. Like we just got here, so we just got pretty drunk and like we brought like a bunch of 30 packs to Jeff's shop, and well, me and Aaron and Billy just got kind of like trash, but like we swapped out the knuckles. And I'm like, this is silly. Like we're doing all this stuff and like we're like finding different like bolts to like add more camber. Cause you know, it's a very simple setup. It's like stock lower control arms, big spacer, you know, non-adjusted knuckle. And I'm like, we're gonna fuck this guy's car up. Me being Mr. Negative. In my head, I'm not like I did go like, are you sure you want to do that, man? That's a lot of work. But like, because I wanted to like get cheesesteaks and
Yeah.
not fucking work on cars. But we had a good time. He drove that thing like insane, right? So we like put on, we got it aligned, got it all like tip top and stuff. He drove that thing insane. Like first lap out was like on this little like skid pad thing they had people warming up on day one. Just absolutely like throwing the car around like crazy. And then I was like, man, because I was riding with him like shooting, you know, camcorder clips or whatever. And I'm like, dude, this car is insane. And he's like, you should drive it. And I was like, absolutely. So I get in and I go like, you know, just like, I just throw it in. I do one lap. I kind of like did like kind of like a warm up. And I was so comfortable in that car that I just chased Josh from Front Street, like in and like threw it in. I wasn't like really close because it's not my car. And I wasn't the one, you know, I was just driving it a little bit and I didn't want to like, it was early in the day, you know, but like I felt so comfortable. I was like able to like surge up and like stay close. Those knuckles are awesome. And I had no idea it was just the chassis that they were connected to. But I think that's just kind of like, those are the kind of cars that they get put on, is the ones that just get driven until the bushings are falling apart, you know,
Right.
like,
Right.
because they're so fun. And like Jeff Stoneback even was like, dude, these knuckles are the shit. Cause he drove it like the next concurrent, like few events. And there's like a bunch of clips of Julian just like doing gnarly, like, you know, backies at the tree turn with like, you know, fully like, just like insane stuff. He flew off the first one. that was actually anyway. But yeah, so like, you know, keeping it simple isn't like the worst thing, right? Like,
No.
I was kind of like, I was a naysayer to like raising the cars, I was a naysayer to this and that. But you know, sometimes you just gotta like trust the people who do stuff, even if in your head the science doesn't quite make sense, you know?
Well, for sure. And I remember like Julian came down with like the Phoebe's S14, like with the knuckles on it and super spaced out, and like was driving Adams. And it was like, you know, I don't even know, is that car still stock KA or has he done something to it since then?
It's still stock KA and it doesn't like make any power because there's something wrong, and we haven't had it. Only loses power after like 3 drift laps, so we can't really like test it until we go drifting.
Yeah, but I mean, just seeing him drive that car there and like, you know, try to follow him and stuff. And I had a stock KA at that point too, and I was just like, yeah, this is incredible what you're doing with this car and how much fun you can have with it and how capable it is. And it like already had, you know, more angle than you could ever probably use with, you know, stock power, but like it was incredible, you know.
You have to like try and spin out.
Yeah, it was so good. I think, you know, it's like, I can definitely, like I was saying, like, I think I can credit, you know, Animal Style and Risky Devil, you know, and like the whole wave of teams that kind of came after that from those events, like with, you know, keeping me interested in drifting and like renewing my love for it. Cause it's like seeing, you know, guys like Julian and like yourself and Jason, you know, and Ryan Cotto and, you know, and everybody at like the Sharking Lot event or at, you know, Final Bout or at Super D, like just seeing the way that you can style a car and drive it, you know, and make it drive as aggressive as it looks, like is the coolest thing ever. You know, it's like, that's the best thing.
Yeah. We're all just chasing old guys in Japan at this point.
Right.
Like, I don't know how old Fujio and Naoki are, but they're definitely like, you know, like they got like Naoki has like multiple kids and stuff, you know, like I'm just it's kind of good. It gives you hope. You're like, all right, I don't have to give this up
No.
right away.
Yeah. And I think if
Or,
anything, man, it's just like, hopefully it's just going to be people like us. Like it's our hot rod generation thing, you know, it's like, it'll just be, you know, like
We're gonna have
50-year-old drifter dudes, like
we're
just
gonna
being
have
like,
hot Chicago nights.
yeah. I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you kicking the clutch coming out of the parking lot there when we go get milkshakes, dude. But I know you will.
We're gonna be the old drag race guys. That's kind of cool though.
It is kind of cool.
It's so cool. I can't wait to be on the weird social media repost page in like 30 years, and they'll post like a picture of my car. You know, because I follow all these like cool like ones that post like film pictures of like 60s like drag cars and stuff.
Oh, dude.
I like kind of just started finding an appreciation for that. Like, and I think about like, man, like that could be us. Like what that was, the 60s were like, I don't know, what, 60 years ago?
Yep.
So like, think about that, you know, think about people in
Well, I think it's
2080 looking at pictures of cars that we built, you know?
Right.
It's just crazy.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's something that's like, I got into shooting more still photos recently. And like, I just love shooting ordinary kind of things because I was having a conversation with, you know, Andy Sapp, and, you know, he definitely raised up my love of doing film photography of things, but it's, you know, just like documenting everyday life, like ordinary things. Like if you're lucky enough to live like another 30 or 40 years, like looking back at now and being like, hey, like this is what things were like, is the same way you and I are like, I love those kind of accounts. Like there's a guy I follow, his name's like Ed Justice, and he's like a motorsports photographer, and I don't know how old he is, but he was like shooting in the classic, you know, California racing days of like the 50s and 60s. And like to look at his vintage photos of like whether it's drag racing or like Riverside Speedway, which doesn't exist anymore, and like all these kind of like classic drivers and cars and stuff like that, you're just like, it's such a crazy thing to look at, like that era, and like kind of how loose things look and like how different they were than they are now, but like with an appreciation, you know, of like, man, it looks so simple. It's like have your Chevy conversion van or whatever in your cool car and like tow it to the track and drink a couple beers and like go do laps or whatever. Like there's no runoff, there's like no catch fence, like the tracks look super sketchy, but then there's just all these people hanging out, and like it was like, I don't know, hopefully someday like we can have that cool nostalgic thing where we like look back at a lot of people's photos from the events we've talked about and the videos and stuff and be like, that was pretty fucking cool.
You make me want a conversion van with like porthole windows and like like a dragon airbrush on it and Toto. Like,
but it's just like the clothes and the culture and like, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like you're just like,
that's what that's what goes with the photos. You're like, okay, like people are dressed like super like 70s out, you know, and they're like leaning up against their like, you know, drag car that probably only does like 13s or something. You know?
Right.
But it's like back then that was like the coolest thing. And it's like, yeah, it seems low key. That's probably what looking at pictures of people just hanging out at Grange are going to look like in the future, you know?
For sure. But like the same people that like we're talking about now are going to be the influential people, you know, of the stories in the future, right? Like the Bensons and the Pettys and, you know, yourself and Julian and like Andy Sapp and like,
don't you dare put me in that list of people. Don't you dare put me in that
like
list.
You know, like Aaron Losey and like anybody that's instrumental in like a community, right? Like around drifting, or like someone that's done things, you know, for drifting that has helped innovate the sport. Like I was listening to a podcast about like Mickey Thompson, right? And like,
was that a guy?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like, he's gnarly. You should look him up. He's like a hot rodder, drag racer, off-road racer, super entrepreneur. And then also got murdered in cold blood in his driveway. And there was like a really big, like unsolved murder mystery, like him and his wife. Is gnarly.
Were there two like Mickey Thompson lions leaving the house? Sorry, that fucked up.
11s. Yeah. We know which way he went. But like
the only guy who could identify the tread marks is dead.
He's dead. The man right here is the one who would know. but dude, he like, it's like his life story reads like something that you're talking about right now. Is like, oh, I like, was doing this and built his first hot rod and went 130 miles an hour, and then 2 years later built a car that went 200 miles an hour, and then 3 years later built a car that went 300 and some miles an hour, and then like invented this part and then designed this tire. And it was like the amount of innovation that you're like talking about, like, like it might seem goofy to be like, oh, this guy's chopping knuckles and making the thing smaller to do this, but it's like it's an innovation within a sport, or like a subsect of a style of something that's important, like
there's something there, man.
There is something there for sure. And it's culturally what's important to us, because like obviously we weren't alive in the Mickey Thompson heydays of like, what, like all the, classic Hollywood movies of like racing in the LA River and like all these hot rods and stuff. Like that's the people who were boomers, like that's what they identify with, right?
Yeah.
So it's like for us, it's like it'll be interesting to see what kind of sticks around and like what has relevancy.
I mean, there's definitely like the generation, like Benson easily could have been, like, to use Benson as an example, he could have easily been like a DC2 drag race guy, but he like found drifting. So he was like early, and that's kind of what makes him special.
Well, even like Mark Hutchinson, like is a great one that I like got to meet through Final Bout and stuff.
All
and
the
it's
drift
like,
people, I guess, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like, well, what made you decide to do these rear-wheel drive cars, and when all this other stuff was, dude, 240s? I don't think, like, if you knew about 240s in the 90s, like, or even like, the BMWs, and like we're into sliding them around or doing anything like that, like you were way ahead of the curve, because there's so many halo cars above that. Like nobody was looking at a 240 in the US and being like, I want that over a Z, like everybody was like twin turbo Z, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I wanted a Z.
Me too.
I wanted a 300 ZX.
Yeah,
so bad. My coworker had one. He's like, dude, this car sucks. And I'm like, I'm like, sell it to me, man. Like, I want, and he's just like, you don't want this car.
Yeah.
It's like that scene in Walk Hard. Was that dude? Yeah. He's like, is that the name of the movie? Dewey Cox Story? I don't know. Whatever. He's like, you don't want none of this, Dewey. Anyway. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Andy Sapp, that scene in your video where you go around.
Keep drifting fun.
Yeah. I remember ththings sometimes.
The scene where he like terrible.
I didn't expect anyone to pull out like a BMW, and I was never really into BMWs. Like I grew up, my dad hated BMWs. He was like the pinnacle, like these blinker not using, like I'm just gonna spare everybody the 45-minute rant. But he's like, I had one and the seat came out. Those are the biggest pieces of shit on the planet, and blah, blah. Anyway, whatever. So I was always like, kind of like, oh man, maybe those cars aren't that reliable. But I saw that scene and I was like, if people drift them, they have to be pretty stout, right? And I saw that freeway, like that big freeway, like sweep. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And like, I didn't think anything of it at the time, but later on I realized like, oh, that was one of the things that like kind of got me interested in maybe trying to do this chassis. And I was like, I want to try something different. And like, I love S chassis, I think they're great cars. I just, in the situation I was in at the time, I needed to try something that I could drive to the track and not deal with smog and all that. And I was like, this might be an avenue. And he actually hit me up and he was like, yo man, your car is really cool. And I was like, what? Like, hey dude, like same, like fucking, that clip and Keep Drifting Fun was like so cool. That was like one of the things that let me know it was going to be like okay to go this route.
Yeah.
Like some other friends like had them, and it was kind of like starting to become like, because people drifted E30s a lot, but not like a lot. Anyway, who cares?
But that's the thing with Andy, man. Like I've been lucky enough to like hang out with him a bunch this year. Like we worked together on a few things, and like he's a super good character, and like definitely somebody I consider like a brother at this point. Like he exemplifies so many of the things that we were kind of talking about to like a T. Like he was into like front wheel drive stuff and like lows and like stuff with hydraulics. Like he's like has this interesting background, where he has like really cultured with all these different kind of car styles he's been around. and then to get into BMWs and like really stick with that. And I think, you know, like when other people might have walked away like from challenges with those, just stayed with it and stayed with, you know, that chassis. He is a 36 also. But I mean, like, you know, he just has like, you know, has found the perfect wheel for it. Like just stayed at that size, like didn't ever try to get more power on that, just like made it as drivable as possible and like made it so it was reliable and, you know, like just did everything his style and like brought in, you know, his outside influences, like whether it's like kind of metal or like, you know, other car style. It's like kind of a rad, you know, juxtaposition of things.
Yeah, he seems like a dude who would have a lot of cool stories if you had a beer with him.
Oh, dude, like he's had so many. It's like one of those ones where it's like when you talk to him, he's used to being kind of the small guy in the room because he's been around so many kind of cool and like famous people at this point because he was a tour photographer for some pretty big musicians for a few years. So he's used to being
cool.
like
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's used to being like the smaller guy in the room, but not having to be the guy that's like has to drop the story on everybody, you know? And like, I think him and I kind of like have resonated in that where it's like, you don't want to always be the dude that's like just trying to, you know, be the cool guy and be like, oh, I got a story about that. I got a story about this. I did this. And it's like, you know, that only comes from like actually having some pretty sweet life experiences and just being able to like sit back and be like, yeah, that's, go ahead and tell me your story. You know, like I got a good one too, though.
Words of wisdom.
Yeah, it's rad. It's unbelievable stuff. He's experienced.
That might be a lesson I still need to learn a little bit, but you know, that's okay.
No.
I got a lot of shitty stories.
It's not even the shitty story thing. It's just like the one-upsmanship, right? Like where it's like you don't even need to play the card. Like you're just
I see.
Like I got.
Yeah.
You're
like, oh, but I did one time.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's like
that kind of stuff.
Yeah. He's got like there's no he's such like a like cool and kind of collected person that like he can be in a room and exist and feel comfortable being who he is, where he doesn't need to try to be the guy, you know?
Yeah. That's good.
Which I think is super admirable because like, it's
dude, it takes willpower to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I definitely have gotten better with that over time, but that's definitely something that I struggled with. I think it's like I don't know. It's just like it's a confidence thing, right? Like
for sure.
If you're insecure in the place you are, you're going to be like, hey, whoa, don't, you know, like I'm cool, you know?
Yeah. It's like
one time I ran a half marathon.
Yeah.
I didn't finish it, but it was cool, you know?
Might do it again, you know?
Yeah, I'm gonna try 2 years from now, I guess. I haven't started training yet, but it'll be fun, you know. Like I guess, I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe yeah. That's good advice for literally everyone in the world. Don't put all your cards on the table.
For sure. Well, that's the cool guy move, man. I got nothing but respect for that. Like if you're like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it seems yeah, your Keep Drifting Fun video, I think, was definitely the most like documentary style thing I've seen to come out of drifting, and kind of like all encompassing of drifting in the different places and like different tiers and levels. And like you went to like New Mexico even, and like like it was like a really nice kind of like picturesque view. It was like a timestamp of drifting in the US of that like year. So like how long did it take to shoot it? Was it?
I think it was like 8 to 9 months. And the really tough thing was that I was like traveling and shooting a bunch like outside of that too. So it's like Josh Heron, who I made it with, like him and I were traveling doing that. And then I was working with Speed Hunters at the time. So like for Speed Hunters, I would go and shoot like video series documenting like the Need for Speed race team, like racing. So it's like we would go and arrange our schedule around the FD calendar. So we were doing content for Chris Forsberg and for NOS. We were shooting all the grassroots stuff that we could shoot. And then I was shooting all the Team Need for Speed stuff like at the same time. And it just like became a lot for sure, because it would be like, oh, so you're going to fly to England and go shoot this, you know, GT race and then come back and then shoot Road Atlanta. And then like after that, you can go to France and go shoot.
Yeah, they had like
GT
time attack
racing.
cars and everything, right? Like they had that crazy TC with the big front wing.
Yeah, with Chris Rado. Yeah. And like, I mean, I thought what was really cool about that is that like, you know, the kind of visionary people behind that, like Rod Chong, who like now works with like Race Service and I think does some of his own stuff too. Like, you know, he kind of had the forethought to be like, oh, I should like get all these people that I respect and I think are doing interesting things and like make a team out of them, even though there's like they're in all these different disciplines and like all over the place, you know.
Kind of cool.
Yeah. And
That's
also to convince
common.
Yeah, to convince a huge corporation like Electronic Arts, you know, to do that. It's like, you know, it's kind of crazy because it's like I'd worked for them, you know, like on Need for Speed Shift 2, and I lived in Vancouver, BC, doing that for like 9 months, like working on the game, and like just to go into office every day and like work there and see how a huge corporation like that works. Like there's such a slow moving kind of ship, like they're like a Titanic, right? Like there's like could be something coming in and be like, do something nimble, and they're like, oh, we're gonna hit the iceberg, you know. Like it takes them so long to be reactive. So to like be on a team of people that was like, now we're gonna get this Frederick Osbo guy who's just now driving in the US, and we're gonna get Matt Powers, who's like this really surfer stoner kind of feeling dude from San Diego who's driving this slammed S14, you know, who's a super underdog. And we're also gonna bring in Vaughn, and then guy with this huge wing on the front of his car doing time attack and Scions, Chris Rado. And then like, oh yeah, by the way, our vice president of the whole company is racing GT cars, and we're going to go follow him in Europe and this other guy. And then like, it was just like the most bizarre group of characters, you know, but like somehow
like, can we change this? They're like, oh yeah, well, I guess let me check everyone's schedule and set up a meeting. And you're like, no,
yeah,
I just need to change this one thing, please.
Dude, it was nuts. Yeah, it was nuts. It was nuts to see the inner working of that. And like, just, you know, like that was still, I think like the height of, you know, big AAA title stuff. Like those companies like just make all their money from all the sports franchise and like big games, and like, you know, like, I don't know, to me, like they really hadn't made a cool game that I thought was sick since like Underground or whatever. So it was like but it was really neat to be a part of, because it was like at least the people that were behind it were passionate about, you know, representing things accurately and not just making things, you know, whether that came through in the final product, I don't think is necessarily the case, but like the intention was there, right?
Yeah, it seemed like they were doing a lot of stuff with like speed hunters, and it was like there was a lot of promotion.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, that was, I don't know. I haven't played like console stuff in a very long time, but
me neither.
I can't imagine doing those both in the same year. Didn't you guys get like a van and you kind of just like cruised the van?
Yeah, so I bought a 74 Volkswagen Westfalia, and then like we redid everything except for what we should have redone, which was we just did like body work and resprayed it and like put different suspension on it.
You're like, it's gotta look good.
And we did nothing with the engine. And then of course the engine blew up because you know, I think the tune got really bad. We found out that the thing that actually was the whole problem the whole time was that the fuel tank was rusted. And so then it was just flaking rust flakes into the fuel filter, which is inline, and like it's all mechanical, so it runs on like 4 or 5 psi, you know, of pressure.
So it just
clogged it, and it would get super leaned out and then wreck the engine. And then the people that we had replace the engines, you know, would put a new engine in and do stupid stuff but not check the fuel tank, so then it would just happen again.
You're like, what is wrong with these motors?
Yeah. That was one of those ones that like your dad, I'm going to be like to any younger people than me, I'm like, those old Volkswagens are a real piece of shit. Don't trust them, you know? But that's a total bias, like not real opinion, because like, yeah, that's just me being dumb and not like checking, you know, this just, you know, having a good checklist and being like, okay, does it have fuel? No. It does have spark. What's happening here? Yeah, because they're simple. They're really simple vehicles, and like, yeah, we definitely mess it up.
Yeah, that's cool. I remember when I ran into you randomly at a rock climbing gym in LA. I was like, is that fucking Will? I was like, what's up, dude? You're like, whoa, hey.
No, that's super rad. There was a good group of us going for a while there. Like, Brandon Cotto was into it, and another dude, Alex Bernstein, who's like a stills photographer, shoots a lot of automotive. Like,
all you video guys are in better shape than all the drifters.
not really, man. I fell off for a while. I just been like trying to get my training back up so I can go snowboard a bunch here now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you so you like moved to like are you a bit are you a big winter sports person? Is that why you're out there, or is it just
I love it. Like I'd always wanted to live up in the mountains, and I was kind of trying to choose between like initially I think just seeing parts of the country, I was like, oh man, Colorado is amazing. I want to live in Colorado. And then I was like, oh, Utah is pretty cool. I live in Utah. And then even like parts of Wyoming and Montana. And then living in California, I was like, oh, Tahoe is really rad. And
yeah,
I feel like I missed the window for that. Like it just got way too expensive. And
yeah,
it's also like a very heavy winter, like compared to some of those other places. Like Colorado gets snow, but like Tahoe gets real snow, like gets in terms of actual, amount per year and stuff. Like they're getting some real inches.
Yeah, like you buy snow tires and 4-wheel drive and like lockers and stuff to like get around there.
Yeah. And all the spots I was into were like all these ones that would have just been really ignorant. Like you're like living at like 7,500 feet or 8,000 feet, and you get like 400 inches of snow a year, and you're like, yeah, okay, I'm not even gonna be able to get out of my house.
Yeah, you just walk out, like snowboard down to your car and go to the store. You just snowboard down to the store.
Yeah.
That's not open.
It's not open because they're all stuck at home too. Yeah. So I think that was like just process of elimination was like, yeah, Tahoe seems a bit unreasonable. And then I was like, oh, Mammoth is really cool. It's a cool town, but like it's 5 hours from everything. And like I still need to be able to get to some places. So I kind of settled on the weakest winter because like Big Bear has the least amount of snow and not the like smallest mountains, and definitely not the best from that kind of stuff. If you're like a park rider, Bear's pretty sick. Like they have great parks, and like Snow Summit and Bear, I think were actually like some of the early innovators of like park features in the United States. Like,
that's cool.
Hosting like really early. They dug a trench that was like a 6-foot half pipe, and like built a lot of the guys that kind of invented park technologies and stuff, like, boxes and rails and stuff. I think that a lot of the innovation obviously happened at those two mountains, which is cool.
Dang.
Yeah. But I'm not trying to do that. I'm not like 19 and 20 years old anymore, like trying to
just throw yourself off stuff.
Huck myself off stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I might go this year. I might go snowboarding this year. My friend's living in Tahoe just like with his grandparents to escape all the craziness. And he's like literally right next to a resort. I'm like, I should probably like rent a board and at least try it again.
Which one is he by?
He's in like Incline Village.
Oh, okay. So is he by like Mount Rose, or
he's close to Mount Rose? He's close to like he literally lives like they live like almost next to Diamond Peak.
Oh, okay.
Just like that, like kind of small. It's like it's not the best, but it's literally right there. And I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, I'm gonna get like a season pass because I can literally walk there. I was like,
that's cool.
All right. I was like, yeah, I'll come check it out.
You should. Yeah.
I haven't been. I broke my knee skateboarding when I was 13, and like I got like surgery, but I was supposed to get 2, and I didn't get the second one because
like physically broke like the cap, or like
I broke the bone. I like snapped one of the bones that is below the cap.
Okay.
And so they like reattached it, and I was supposed to get a second surgery because they were going to do more. And I was like a very, I don't know how to describe it. I wasn't the most easy child. If I ever have kids, I'm so fucked. I'm gonna have like demon children. And I like made, I don't know. It was like family stuff was happening at the time. So I kind of just never got the second one. And so like all from 13 to like 21, I had knee problems. Like I couldn't really run, couldn't do anything. So I kind of I could bike, but I couldn't like do bunny hops or anything anymore. Like it was really just like drag rear brake and stuff like that. And on my 21st birthday, I blew my knee out, and then I had got my ACL and all my meniscus were gone.
Yeah.
So they like fixed all that, and then ever since it's been pretty good. Like, but I'm just nervous, you know. Like I don't.
Rightfully so, man. I could see how that would.
Yeah, but I mean, gotta try stuff.
Is that all one knee, or is that in both?
Yeah. Yeah, it's my left knee.
Yeah. I mean, that's
tell people that in case I'm ever in a fight.
Go for his left knee.
People are like writing when I talk shit on here, they're just like writing down fucking notes. I'm gonna fucking get him. He lives near the beach and his knee's bad.
Oh yeah.
He said he doesn't like Ryan Sage's commentary.
I was about to say that, but you're gonna have an FD assassin coming after you.
Yeah, there's no way.
Tanya Harding.
There's no way any of them will ever see this, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They don't have time for dumb podcasts.
But they should.
They should.
Yeah.
I'll have them on, dude. You guys come on.
I think that would actually be intriguing. Like I would like to pick those dudes' mind, like just to kind of see where they feel like things are going, and like because even man, when I first started shooting it, they survived, you know, like the economic recession essentially that was pretty hard on a lot of brands and event companies. Like I mean, Circuit City was a sponsor when I was shooting them.
Yeah.
Like the first couple of years.
They were on G4.
Yeah. So if you think about it, like a lot of the, you know, like non-endemic sponsors that were involved in drifting at that point, like, and how you continue to have a series and do that, like I have nothing but respect for entrepreneurs and people that can like make it happen, you know, through tough times for sure.
Yeah. That's without a doubt. I didn't think about that. That is something.
Because I mean, like, dude, look at like what the Hot Import Nights and big car show event. Because I think that's kind of those guys' background was. I feel like they were more in the car show world, and like it'll be an interesting one to ask Benson or Mark or somebody like that was really at it at the beginning of kind of the split off, you know, from D1 is like, you know, what were these dudes' backgrounds that like came in and like, you know, what were they kind of, why, you know, did you essentially side with them, or like, you know, how did they have that longevity that a lot of these other kind of places, you know, in events didn't have, you know?
Yeah. There's gotta be some stories there. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like from the perspective of people who like, I mean, I went to FD in like 2006. Like I've been around, like I watched it on G4 when I was like, before I could drive, you know? So it's been a part of drifting ever since, you know, before I could even drive. Like I remember like everyone leaving, it was at Sonoma on 2006. Everyone leaving was like Majin and the gravel, like leaving the, like, cause there wasn't that many people there. Like they just opened up like the back area and just like let everyone in. And I don't know. It was weird because it was like still like a big mix of like Japanese cars and drivers and like super American stuff. Like there was that like El Camino thing or whatever. Like there's like a lot of like very weird, like there wasn't like it wasn't really like standard yet. And like, how did they pick between those two driving styles? Like how do you have a series when there's such a variety in what people think drifting is, and like cater to everybody? I guess that's kind of what FD is.
Yeah.
What it became.
I think it's like a fascinating, you know, case study, because I think you're totally right. Like if you look at like when I first started covering it, and around that same time you had like Reese Millen driving a GTO, and like Dye got into a GTO afterwards.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot he drove a GTO.
Yeah, you have like Pontiac, you know, and GM kind of as a chassis sponsor, title sponsor for those cars. And like
they're like, hey man, should probably like should we implement like a smoke thing? Like the more smoke they get, the more points they get. There's like a board meeting or something. Like that's a great idea. Should we put smoke machines in the cars?
How do we increase the, you know, the smoke?
Well, we could raise the tire pressure.
Mm.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. I had a friend. I still have a friend, and he was there, and he like this is like one of his favorite stories. I'm gonna tell it because it's so embarrassing now. But he like told me this like he thought it was like the coolest thing ever, and it sucks because I'm not gonna say like he's not really into drifting anymore, but he like went up to one of the like crew people for one of the cars. I can't remember exactly who it was or what they said, but it was like he asked them like, "Oh, what tire pressure are you running?" And they're like, "Oh, this." He's like, "You should go up." And they're like, "Why?" And he's like, "More smoke." And then he like told me this story like the most confident ever. Like they didn't even fucking get it, dude. Like they don't know that they can make more smoke. And I was just like, oh my God.
Dude,
But
I
at the
love
time
that.
I was like, yeah, you fucking got him, dude. That's
Yeah.
hella funny. And then like I look back at it later and I'm like, oh.
I love that though, because I think you're right, because the actual way that they had it was like overall impact was a third of the score. So you could say that like smoke was actually
Yeah.
like a big, because I mean,
Well,
they used to do speed too.
yeah, they used to have speed guns.
Yeah.
Which I thought that was cool that they started doing that because it's like, okay, the people like coming into turn one, like they have to be cooking, right? Like
Yeah.
they can't like do something in qualifying and then like slow down for the tail. I was like, that's cool. Like to be honest, man, like the stuff they use in D1, that like crazy box with all the sensors and like things like how far away the cars are from each other, and they like just spit out a number.
Yeah.
I kind of hate it.
Oh, for sure.
I would love for the judges to be able to look at the data if they need to make a call, but I
Yeah.
don't think the call should be dependent on two boxes talking to each other, you know?
For sure.
It's
And that's
like
the
like
thing
that.
I've always struggled with drifting is like when you go to explain it to competitively to someone and you're like, well, how do you know who won? You know, and you're like, well, there's like criteria for it, and like there's a line they need to be on, and like they should both have a similar speed and like be to these points, but like
Whoever's in the fucking pocket wins, okay?
yeah, dude, you get in that pocket and you stay there.
You get in that
Stay in
pocket
the
and you
pocket.
fucking win.
You win. And if you're leading, you just never let that other guy get in the pocket. Just never let him get in your pocket. Real out of pocket.
I laughed so hard with you and Brandon when we were like running around Osaka on that one of those days. I don't think I was like, this is good. Brandon Kato is one of the funniest people. Like, man,
dude, I love Brandon. Like he's such a good person. Like at the core of it, and his sense of humor, like I feel like has gotten so much like dirtier and nastier like as he's gotten older. And I appreciate it so much, like just because like it's like the evolution of it is so great. Like it's like I think it's like it's unassuming. Like if you were to like just look at him and like make a snap judgment of him,
for sure,
you're like, oh, this dude has this like really like
he seems
diabolical wholesome. Sense of humor.
He seems wholesome.
Yeah,
but he's not. His sense of humor like was wholesome at one point. He's always like he's always been friends with like people not his age too. I think that's kind of cool. Like,
which I feel bad about, man, because like sometimes because I'm like hanging out with him and I'm like, and like I forget how old he is, and then he'll be like, you know, he'll be like saying something about like how he wishes he's like further along, you know, something career wise, and I'm like, Brandon, you're like, and you're still in your like mid-20s. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm like, you're so successful. Like, you like you went all in, man. Like, there's not many people I know that were like, yeah, okay, I'm buying a red camera like immediately out of college. Like, I'm just gonna start doing this stuff. Like, and like invest in his future. Like, makes really smart like financial decisions, and is like just such a hustler. Like, he's been so invaluable like on bigger jobs, and like, you know, it's hard to imagine like, you know, doing jobs without him. Like we just shot Gymkhana 11, and like Brandon and Justin Shreve are like two of the main camera operators, you know, on that. So it's like cool to be able to
that's crazy.
work with those dudes. And like
where was that this time? Like, I know you guys got to go to China. Like, I can't imagine like going to do car stuff in China. Like, it seems
It
so
went,
like,
it went way smoother than I thought it would.
yeah.
Yeah, because like I went to China with Larry Chen and Powers and Ryan Littrell and Vaughn and Kyle Mohan and trying to think who else. Like for the WDS series, like World
Mhm.
Drift Series. Oh, Ross Petty also like, and that was a while back, and that was just
Oh,
like,
Ross Petty.
dude, I love Ross, like Ross and Frank, and I know Frank's like up in the Bay Area tuning now, isn't he? Like all the time,
Mhm.
like yeah. So it's like, yeah, but Ross like is just a legend, and yeah, it was just a complete utter cluster, like being in China with those guys and like the event and like everything, and like that was my only experience with China. And then they're like, hey, we're gonna go shoot.
Isn't that like kind of like aren't there like some legendary stories from that whole
Oh
thing?
yeah,
Isn't that
oh
like
for sure.
Matt just like running around being crazy in China and like, oh, dude.
I
I,
I went
to
to
be
one
to
too, and
be to
like
be fair, yeah,
those guys went to like 6 a year or something. You know, like they were
yeah,
going all the time, and like
yeah.
they're like
Because
I
it's
think
like this weird. They have like a weird stadium battle thing, right? Like,
yeah, which is
yeah,
like kind of became a thing. I think in I don't know if it's like Eastern Europe, you know, like is more popular there now, where it's like you pave an infield track in a stadium
mm-hmm.
and then do an event in there, because like the seating is terrific. You have like these bigger
Yeah,
arenas that you use for track and field, and it's like lay down plywood and put asphalt over top of it, and then you can take it out when you're done. So
yeah,
it's like it's kind of genius, but it's like real bizarre. Like you like the cars are just like running in the entry, and then it's like kind of always a teardrop shape with like maybe one chicane after it or something. So it's like pretty limiting, but for like a spectator standpoint, like you can't, it's like
you're
you
right
can't get
there.
closer. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's huge. They're like massive stadiums. But the China one was bizarre. Like it was like they like truck brought in the busloads of people. Like they were there for like an hour, and then they all just left before like the end of it. So it's like it was really bizarre. No.
like I like okay, we literally have 1 hour to get shots, or there's gonna be no one in the stands.
Well, it was like it's all government funded too, and it's just so different. You know,
So
like
wild.
you can't even imagine it. Like growing in like if you're from Australia or Japan or Europe, like you just have no sense like of what China's like. It's like it's so different, you know.
Yeah,
And then going back, like I guess I think that was last year or 2 years ago when we went back for Gymkhana. Like it went super smooth. The crew there was excellent. It was in like this really remote, smaller city that's like around all these national parks, like
yeah.
where they shot what is that movie? Um, with all the like blue creatures. It's a James Cameron movie that begins
Oh,
with an
Avatar.
A. Avatar. So they shot
Yeah.
Avatar, like the scenes that they use for Avatar, like all the crazy rock spires and all that stuff,
Mhm.
are like in these national parks, like right outside of the area we shot in for
That's cool.
Gymkhana too. So it's like it's
Yeah,
just
I saw pictures from that, and I was like, "That's in China? What? That's so
yeah,
cool." I was like,
yeah.
"Man, I'd be interested in checking that out." Like, that's yeah. I was it just like you just have like a different production team this time that just like really like,
Was it
or
the
was like
same?
China like we want Ken Block?
I think it was that. I think it
Yeah.
was a bit of that for sure. And I think Ford is like a big multinational company too, and like they're trying to grow, I think,
Mm,
their presence in China as well. Also, like, like I know Vaughn was doing a whole bunch of stuff at that time with like Mustang in,
interesting.
in China. And I mean, because it's like it was just like if you think about China, I think economically, like they're in this super boom period, like where it was like a lot of people were going from like the lower end of the economic spectrum to like more middle class. So they had like a lot more disposable income, and like people were, wanted to buy foreign cars and things like that. So like I think, companies like you see Tesla and stuff like setting up there
Yeah.
for manufacturing, but like also for like they know a market's going to be there, because like anybody else, like you're like, oh, I want to live a better life and I want to have nicer things, and like that's just the trajectory. So yeah, I think seeing China like 8 or 9 years apart, it was like a completely different place. Like granted, I didn't go to the same place, but like it felt like everybody had kind of leveled up.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
really interesting. Man, see, like that's cool. You get to get to explore the world a bit, chasing cars and
but then we went there and like, the local production people were sick. Like they all came in from other bigger cities. Like they, came in from like Shanghai and Beijing, and like they're used to doing a ton of work. And so like, we had so much support there, like local assistant camera operators and like good producers. And like, there was hardly any language barrier, and like, it just went super smooth, like all things considered, like in the World Drift Series saying like they would get over there and then the cars would need retuned because the gas like wasn't the same octane level and same quality as in the United States. So it's like a lot of the dudes like Powers and Mohan and like Ross Petty like would have all kinds of engine issues because like I think they were all detonating because like the fuel wasn't, to the same octane level as in the
they didn't plan for that.
No, yeah. But I mean, you hear about people like that bring cars from Japan too, right? And like have issues with fuel also.
Yeah.
But
because like that number doesn't mean the same thing everywhere.
Right. Everybody has like different grades of things. But yeah, China for the WDF stuff was just like it was another level.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I don't know. Seems like they had fun though.
Dude, they all had a ton of fun, and I think they bought like a bunch of people's cars, and kept them over there, or like they would ship them back and forth, and like all those dudes I feel like got paid decently well, to go do that. And
that's not bad.
For them and it was for us like to be able like, to go to China with your friends and go shoot something is like kind of a dream come true for sure.
Yeah. Where haven't you been yet that you want to go?
I haven't been to Australia, and that would be rad to go to Australia. I would always love to go back to Japan, because I went to snowboard the last time I went to Japan.
I heard it's amazing
in Hokkaido. Yeah, and it was amazing. It was like the not crazy terrain, but like the amount of snow is unreal. The quality of snow just being so light is really cool. Like the tree skiing is really good. Like, it's just it's a super gem, and like, you can just eat ramen and stuff every day afterwards. It's it's like perfect, it's like, you're like, oh, I get to like get to pick your favorite, convenience store, go to it, stock up on stuff, go ride all day, drink canned coffee, then drink ramen. Like, sign me up, man.
Yeah. I do miss the ramen. It is like not comparable. Like
not at all. Yeah.
We walked into like, you walk into like a corner spot that's like not like, you look at Google reviews and there'll be like 2 or something like in Japanese, and you'll be like, I don't know, this one might suck. And then you're like, nope, still better than everything I've had.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we gotta get back there. I think once all this travel ban stuff comes out of play, we might be going back. You should come with, man.
I would love to, man. Yeah.
Just run amok.
Especially if you're going to be driving, dude. Definitely need to go.
We'll see.
Or we'll make sure we have a camera for you this time from the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down to shoot. I actually shoot a lot of the stuff for like the animal style, like YouTube stuff. Julian will toss me like the camcorder and I'll, film things or make fun of people or whatever. And then he edits them, and I'm like, oh, cool. Here you get to do the hard part.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. How
about you? Where's the spots that you want to go to in the world?
I said Australia last time someone asked me that. I don't know. I had a great time in New Zealand. I want to go to Australia as well. Like, I don't know, something about that. Like, I know they're both very different, but that like something about that part of the world, everyone's just kind of, it's an interesting vibe.
I loved New Zealand, and that's honestly the same reason I said that is like I lucked out and have been to New Zealand a few times, like North and South Island, and like New Zealand, I think for anybody that's looking for somewhere to go, that's easy because they speak English and is beautiful and doesn't have a ton of people and like has a very welcoming culture. Like, New Zealand's where it's at, man. Like it's such an easy place to hit.
I'm for sure going back there at some point.
Yeah.
With more time to like explore.
Do the camper van thing too. Like I've done that, I think 3 out of the 4 times I went, and it was so worth it. Cause like they have like a kind of right to roam freedom camping type thing where it's like, if you find the right spot, you can go camp, but then also culturally, I think they're like RV and camp parks like are way nicer and like than ours. Like, not that ours are bad by any means, but I think culturally people just do that more. You know, it's like way more accepted, like the holiday parks and do that because like they're always by somewhere nice, like they're by a nice beach or like some nice feature and like they're well laid out and clean and easy.
Yeah, Joel of C's Garage has like a very nice Land Rover Discovery, and he owns a roof tent company called Felden. So like, you know, like roof tents or whatever, like that's his main business. He does that. And so like I follow their roof tent company, and like the pictures and videos they post of like it's just them like surfing and like camping on the beach, and just like it's like every like I don't know, it's just like the most like low key dream to just like kind of just anyway. So yeah, I'll definitely go back there and do that. I can't think. I know for sure once this travel ban's done, I'm gonna go to Poland to do the next level thing. I know like Hurt went to that and stuff. I'm like one of the BMW drift guys. So like they're like, come out. I was like, I'm fucking down. Like, sign me up.
That's something that I appreciate about the BMW community as an outsider, is that like that exists, right? Because nobody's like, hey man, you got a cool S chassis, you should come to this foreign country, you know, like.
Well, they're like the Japan style BMW like place, like that's where all of them are. And then like there's, you know, I mean they're out, you know, whatever, everywhere, but I feel like the biggest concentration of them is in Poland.
Yeah.
Like like people, and they keep pushing each other to do cooler shit. Like there's like 4 aero kits, and they make like, you know, there's like 2 of them are local to Poland. Anyway, they do BMW stuff. I'm like, okay.
They do it really well too. Like
they pull it off.
Yeah.
So I gotta go out there and see what that's all about. Like not drift related, where I would want to go. I don't know. I want to check out South Africa, man. I feel like, just go check out the Cape and all that. That stuff looking beautiful down there.
Yeah, that was the first place I ever went to, like outside of US and Canada, was South Africa.
Wow.
And I went for work. Like first job I had in Los Angeles was like doing a lot of like pharmaceutical video work.
Nice. So it's like all the B-roll of like people like,
dude, even worse. Like I wish it was that.
Diarrhea, cancer.
Yeah. I was doing like
it's like people on the beach. I don't know.
Like running, playing volleyball, golfing. Yeah. I wish it was like I was shooting a clinical trials meeting. So it was like,
whoa.
Yeah, it was like presentations to doctors. I think trying to get them to join the clinical trial. And it was usually pretty heavy stuff. Like it was usually like cancer or AIDS or like some pretty gnarly diseases. And the way that the drug companies would do it was like, they would say, like, join our clinical trial, you know, Dr. Palmer, we know that you treat a lot of patients with AIDS. So we'd love to have you, you know, work on the clinical trial, and whatever our drug is, you know, bring it into your practice and start, you know, monitoring people and have everyone in your office a part of the trial. So as part of that, we're going to bring you out to the like introductory investigator meeting, and it's held somewhere cool so that you like want to come do it. Right.
Yeah.
And they like stay at super nice places and do all that. But like, yeah, I mean, like, I think I was like 22 at the time, and like, yeah, just running around Cape Town like a madman, like just climbing everywhere and like going up on stuff and going to the top of Table Mountain and like checking everything out. And like, yeah, it's definitely, there's so much like crazy culture and things that have happened so recently, you know, like I feel like a lot of stuff that happened in the United States, like with Black Lives Matter and everything that's happened like racially, is like brought a focus back to like, we're not as far along, you know, as we thought maybe, or hoped that we would have been.
Yeah.
But like South Africa is one of those places that you're like, oh, this is like not that long ago that like we had apartheid, and like, you know, there was some.
My mom actually lived in South Africa, like as like apartheid was like really, really coming into. She wasn't in like Johannesburg or anything. She was like kind of out I think her dad he's an architect, and they were working on like housing developments or something, which, probably wasn't the greatest thing. I don't like, because it was like things were getting like really heavy, I guess. And my mom was like, she was on like a play. She was like in a like Broadway play style thing, like, what Hair is, anyway, whatever. She was like in that, but it was like she was in a very like, she was in like a super like black area, so she was doing like theater with like 99% black people, and they were like, you should, things are getting pretty heavy, like, we like you, like, this might be time, like, and yeah, so I know a fair bit about that, and so like that's one of the reasons I want to go, is because my mom lived there for a bit. So
that adds so much more to it, because like, I didn't have anything like that going into it, and I still found it to be like, a really heavy experience, because like you can go to Robben Island where Nelson Mandela was imprisoned and like tour that whole place, and it's a cool boat ride to get out to it, but then you're like, this is this tiny remote prison island out in the middle of the ocean,
and you can just like, go there.
Like, I mean,
you could, they have like tour boats and stuff.
Oh, like, yeah, because it's no longer a prison; it's now like a historical landmark. But like, it is really heavy to like be like, yeah. So this guy was imprisoned here for however many years, for just doing things that we would consider to be like very basic, human rights, and like it's like, it's not something that happened, 100 years ago or like 50 years ago. It's like, it's pretty real. And then like, even coming from the airport, like you go past all of like the shanty towns outside of Cape Town, and then you hit Cape Town, and Cape Town's like so upscale. And then like, there's just such a disparity between things. It's like it's like if you went to the hardest city in the United States, it has like a really big separation of like, social inequality and socioeconomic difference and stuff. It like doesn't even compare, right? Like, because it's like, this is like the third world type living environment, where it's like there's just stuff made out of like random scraps of wood, and like there's like, like people are cooking stuff like right in the middle of a dirt road, and like then all of a sudden you're like, cool, I have a luxury mansion that has like razor wire up the downspout to keep people from like hopping in, and like it's like, it's such a separation of things. It's pretty nuts.
That's crazy. I didn't realize like the separation, because I mean, you've seen what was that like alien movie that the people I don't know, but I think that's like very
District 9.
District 9, that was shot in South Africa, right?
So because that director is from South Africa.
It's like the dude from, what's that group?
Diantwort, like he's done Neil Bolenkamp, like that dude's excellent. He did like Chappie, I think, too, right? And like,
I haven't seen that yet, but I want to watch it. I feel like they do weird stuff and I like it.
For sure.
I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Like, seems like I don't know, it seems like a beautiful place, but then there's like a lot going on there also. When am I going to Germany?
That's a place I haven't been either, man.
Go to Berlin, check that out. Go to some all-night sex clubs and just, I don't know what I'm talking about. Do weird shit. Sorry, Mom.
I'm gonna go find the weirdest shit, and I'm gonna go do it.
I don't know, man. I'm old now. So. I might have kids someday, dude. You can't be running around Berlin doing weird shit when you have kids,
Yeah, I need to get this done now.
Yeah. How about you? Anywhere else?
I don't know, man. That's a really good one. It's like, it kind of changes, I think, all the time. Like, it's some of the stuff's like so spur of the moment. Like, I've really become so interested in just seeing places in the United States more, and like just experiencing parts of the United States that I kind of underappreciated or wasn't on my radar before.
Yeah, now that we're not allowed to leave, it's like, what have I not seen here?
Yeah. What's a super interesting one is like, like Tom Green has kind of become like a van life dude, and he was like traveling around Utah and parts of Texas, like I
have heard.
Yeah, like just making like ambient music and podcasts and I'm not even
One nut in a van.
Yeah, dude, one nut.
Yeah.
But I mean, even just
Oh,
seeing him doing that, I was like, because we had just done same people, Kato and Shreve and I and our friend Matt, like, and Josh Aaron, like we had just done this big job in Utah where we were in southern Utah for like a week, and we were like in Escalante and near Canesville and kind of on the border of Capitol Reef National Park and a few other spots down there. And like southern Utah is just like, it's so diverse in the landscape, and like there's like slick rock and sandstone and like spires and like, you know, you have Arches and Moab and like all these national parks, but like you could spend like weeks driving around there and see totally different things, and it's not very populated, you know. And it's like that's like, that was what brings up the Tom Green thing, is I know he was there for a minute and I was like, yeah, that's an area of the country I definitely want to get back to some more. It's just such a cool spot.
There was a bunch of some of the like Slam Burglar. It's like a car
Yeah.
group.
Yep.
A lot of them are into like off-road vehicles, which are not slammed.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah.
But they went to Moab and they had like a whole thing, and I was like, oh, I should probably go to that. It would be fun. Like I was like, I don't have money to put into my truck, because they all kind of like their setups are pretty nice and they're all like set up for camping and stuff. But it's like something I tell myself I'm gonna do like every 6 months. I'm like, I'm gonna get like a tent and I'm gonna like do the Forerunner up like a little bit at least, just get some like, you know, all terrains, and then I'm just like, yeah, drift event, you know.
Yeah. I think that's like I know a lot of people that transitioned from doing kind of import car culture stuff into overlanding really hard. Like they made that turn really sharp, because I think it's like the same things appealed to them.
You get to enjoy it way
right.
more.
You're like, oh, I can modify a vehicle and go use it a whole lot, you know? Like,
yeah, I can modify a vehicle and it will get me somewhere that it wouldn't normally, versus modify a vehicle and now I can't drive it anywhere.
Right. Like, and you can do all kinds of rice stuff that actually like also is the same sort of thing. Like, I don't know, like, do you really need like an onboard inflator all that much, or like, you know, like,
nah, but it's sick,
or sick tactical stuff, or like whatever. Yeah. But you know, it's like the same thing, right? Like, do you need underglow? No, but like, it's kind of sick at night when you have it.
Cool. Yeah. Dude, if you don't think I'm gonna put, if I lift my Forerunner and do wheels and tires, like, you better believe I'm putting underglow on that thing.
Please do.
You better believe.
You know, Lindbergh, that's a stills photographer at all. Like, so he's one of those dudes, like him and his girlfriend Carissa, like, you know, he was doing speed hunters. She has a sick Supra. They both shoot mostly for a long time, mostly just automotive. Then they got a Mitsubishi Montero and like outfitted that for like overlanding and camping. Nice. And then put like TEs, like the like off-road version on it. So it's like they made all the really choice, like nice things.
But that's the thing, like you buy those and you put them on your truck, and then it's like you can't curb them, you know.
No.
Like,
but you got so much tire, you can't. You got like
it's not like the person mounting the tires every like 6 months is gonna scratch them, you know. Like those tires are on there for like 2 years plus, you know.
Right.
So kind of course, we were at Good Luck League, and one of the guys who runs it has a Forerunner with TEs on it. My girlfriend's like, "Oh, I really like those wheels," and I'm like,
"Yeah,
fuck." So do I.
It's because they're good on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah. I was like, well, you can get them for the Forerunner if you want. And she's like, oh, how much are they? I'm like, yeah, like $4,000. She's like, you know. Okay. We're getting a dog, so she's got her. Yeah, pretty soon I might be having trouble doing these podcasts and like have like a dog.
Like puppy age dog, or like?
Yeah.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. So I got to get these out of the way.
Yeah, that's a big step, man. What kind of dog are you guys gonna get?
It's a Bernedoodle, so a Bernese Mountain Dog and a Poodle. Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I didn't either. This is part of the reason we moved. Our last place wouldn't let us get a dog.
Yeah.
We ended up working out big time because we upgraded hard with paying less, which is the shit.
So a Bernedoodle though, like Bernese are huge dogs.
Yeah. So
and like furry big dogs, but then like a poodle.
It's not. Yeah, I don't really know how the mating went. You know. Sounds Sounds kind of rough. No,
Dude,
it's a full size poodle, so there's like different
oh
sizes.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like
Not a mini poodle.
it's not like a little mini poodle and like this giant
Yeah.
dog's like,
All those
"Hey."
hybrid designer dogs. I'm like, how did you make this happen?
I don't know. It's fine.
I'm like, who's dreaming this up, man? Like, who's like, it'd be really cool. Let's cross this with this.
Dude, it's just like us with cars and drifting. We're like,
That's true. That's true.
It'd be pretty cool if
I put this
What if-
Chihuahua inside.
what if I put a front wheel drive engine in an S chassis?
Oh, dude, we've just gone full circle now.
There you go.
So
We're
I can't
gonna
talk shit about it. Yeah.
We're gonna get a transverse SR from a Sentra and put it in an S chassis. Worst car ever.
Well, I wish you luck with the dog, man. That'll be cool though.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Actually, like I don't know. We're both like working from home a lot. It's less it's like a good thing, like to get out of the house. And
It's the right time to do it, man. It's like if I didn't have a dog right now, like I don't even want to imagine myself when I'm not working. Like a dog keeps me like actually doing things and not being a complete pile of crap human being.
it's good to know.
Because you got like responsibility.
Yeah.
Like it's like it
It's
makes
like,
you get to a
you're
routine.
hungry? Okay, I gotta like yeah, that's good. I need a little bit of that.
Yeah, it's a good routine, and like, man, it's like such a rewarding thing anyhow, because like dogs just give, and like they're great companions.
Yeah, even just getting out of the even just getting out like podcasts and stuff. Like I don't have a good routine for this, and yeah, so it'll be nice to have some consistency.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My dog's sleeping right here right now. She's 10 and deaf now, so she's like so funny.
Yeah, I was never like, I wanted a pet when I was younger, and then my parents were like, no, definitely not. And I was like, okay, I guess that's never gonna happen. So then it was never really like a thing. And then now it's gonna be a thing. So we'll see. You got any tips, man? I don't know any. I just like Googled some stuff, and then I brought it to my girlfriend. She's like, what is this? Like, I have been doing research for years. Like,
dude, I wish, like, I kind of really lucked out in that I got my dog with an ex-girlfriend, and she was really gung-ho about it. And it was a rescue dog. So she was 2 when we got her, 2.5. And she had like some separation anxiety, and it was like a little bit difficult at first, but she has such a like great personality and is such an easygoing creature that like she's really flexible and good around your schedule, and like just a very like nice creature. Like she's not any kind of a problem animal at all. Like she ate through a couple doors when she had separation anxiety and like messed up some stuff, but like got that out of her system. I think realized that we would be back home. We weren't leaving here forever when we would leave, and like then became really good. And then as she's gotten older, she's just gotten more and more relaxed and doesn't have as much energy, which is like, I think from friends of mine that have had puppies and stuff, is it's like just making sure you exercise them seems to be like the most common thing. Like you'll have a much happier and obedient dog that's like tired, as opposed to one that just like doesn't know what to do with the energy, right?
yeah, dogs and myself.
For sure. Yeah. Dude, you're gonna be ready for the next half marathon, dude. You're gonna be all set.
That's it, dude.
Puppy and the half.
That story was a lie. I never even tried to run a marathon.
Now you will.
I lied to you, Will.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I think we did like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Do you want to like shout out any siblings or family members or anything?
Yeah. Shout out to my sister Lindy and my mom and my dad and my friends that have probably gotten name dropped already in this podcast.
Nice.
Thanks for having me on, Palmer. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. You're the best.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this like last minute.
Of course. Yeah, it worked out great, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.